going to go ahead and get the meeting started. Welcome to the January 2022 Historic District Board of Review meeting. Brooke, you want to start us off with the roll call?
I will. Josh Wilbur. Jerome Vernon.
Here.
Thomas Stark.
Here.
Owen McCall.
Here.
And Mike Pittman.
Here.
All right, we got the last month's minutes. Do we have any comments, edits, suggestions, changes?
Well, I wasn't even here, but I still have a correction. even
Okay,
though I wasn't
well
here.
then, there you go.
Okay. So, page 2, I can't believe this was what was actually said. So I think it must be a typo. Okay, so the first paragraph on page 2 towards the bottom says, P. Lee also asked about a timeline for competition. That was probably completion.
Yes, I'm sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all I had.
Any other edits? All right, hearing none. Accept the motion.
I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
Second.
Brooke?
Josh Wilbur.
Abstain, it was none.
Jerome Vernon.
Approve.
Thomas Stark.
Approve.
Owen McCall.
Abstain, I was absent.
And Mike Pittman.
Approve.
Nicole, we won't have 4. If we have that.
It can be approved as a matter of course. We're not going to have the other two. They're no longer on board.
Right. Okay. Just make a note of it, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, with that, we will get into our review of applications, just so everyone understands how this all goes. I will mention the name of the application. So the first one obviously be 912 West First Street. That person would come up to the podium. You'll state your name and address. And at that point in time, Brooke will go through the application, and then we will give a chance for the applicant to then say anything more about the application that they would like to. The board will then have a chance to ask questions that they have about the application, and then we'll give a chance for the audience to come up and issue their concerns and any questions they may have, and then we will go through what's called a findings of fact, and then take a vote on it. So that is the process, and so with that, 912 West First Street. You want to state your name and address for us?
Yeah, Bill Peckinpah, my home address is 1145 West Second Street. I'm the owner of 912 West First Street.
Okay. That's it. Now you had,
I apologize, I had 928 first.
Because I was following your your thing there. So what do you want to do?
Sorry.
Let's
we
do
can
912 first, and then we'll go back to 928.
Yep, absolutely. So 912, owned by William Peckinpah, is a circa 1860 gable front, zoned historic district residential. The COA request is to install additional windows on the east side of the home and to install a rear door more appropriate to the home. Staff COA approvals issued December 29th were to remove the aluminum siding and install a lower 7-inch reveal smooth finish siding only if the historic wood siding is missing or deteriorated beyond repair. Installation of a brick patio, removal of concrete front steps and installation of wood and concrete front steps and landing. Installation of a 10-inch wood I believe that should be a 10-foot, wood 88 handicap ramp with a 4-foot landing on east entrance, and installation of 5-inch ODK style gutters, only if all options for the installation of half-round gutters, which are more appropriate to the home, have been exhausted.
Is that it, Rose?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, we got issues.
We have to, I think we're switching presentations real quick.
Okay.
Alright, so, the next photo shows the east elevation. Photo after that, this is also, I believe, the eastern side as well, showing a damaged area above the second floor window. And that east entrance is where the ADA ramp will also be installed. You can see the eastern rear, this is where he would like to add the new double window. Or actually, it's a single window, but he's wanting to increase it to a double. This is the rear door, north side of the home that he is wanting to replace. And that is all I have.
Would you like to add anything to that?
Now, the rear door right now is like a, modern door with, it's got the, new metal door that's got the nine lights in it. We're gonna put a door in that looks more like the front door that looks like that. And the side windows, I don't know that she's got a picture of that, but she can show what we want.
They're right there, or you want a different view?
She can get back to them. We'll put some additional windows in there because the light inside is just terrible. We'll put some natural daylight into the windows.
How many additional ones?
3.
Up top, or 2 down, 1 up?
I think it's 2 down, and I think it's actually 2 down and 2 up.
2 down, 2 up?
Mm.
You're gonna add, so you're gonna have 4? Or you're gonna keep the one that's there,
We'll
adding
keep the one
one?
that's up above and replace it. We're gonna put the wood windows back in. I don't like. I'd rather renovate than replace if we could.
And then those windows will also match the height and width and,
Yes.
okay.
Exactly the same.
So they'll all be 1/1?
Yes.
And you said they'll all be wood windows?
Wood windows, yes. I actually have them installed from some renovations that we've done before.
Any other questions from the board?
So the rear or the rear door that you want to replace is, do you have a picture of that again, Brooke?
That one right there.
So that's,
That's a picture of the door we're going to put in, yes.
okay. What's currently there, did you say?
Currently, there is a metal door with 9 lights in it.
Okay.
It's a more modern door.
So not a historic?
That's the door that's in there now.
Yeah. That's obviously not original then.
No,
Yeah.
it's not historic at all.
Okay.
And you're putting a wood door in?
We're putting a wooden door in with 3 lights.
Did you say 1 light, or how many light plus?
3
2?
lights.
3?
It'll match the front door.
Any other questions from the board?
The original door, is that, deteriorating?
Pardon me?
Is the original door need to be replaced because of its deterioration, or do you just not like the look of it?
The new door is probably a 1980s door, or 1990s door. I just want to put a more historic door in.
One that looks more appropriate to the
Yes,
year of the
exactly.
house?
Yeah.
So you'll have 2 new doors, front and back, that match?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And then here's that picture of that south side where he's talking about the new opening. Or the east side, sorry.
And there's the windows when we're done.
Yeah, it looks like you already have the concrete there, you just gotta build it up to get your ramp, right?
I'm sorry.
You said, it looks like you already have concrete on the backside there, so you just gotta build it up to get to your ramp, to get your ramp there?
Yeah, that's the new handicap ramp.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you're gonna use wood, or are you gonna use concrete for that?
And I don't know until we get into it.
Sure.
See what's gonna be feasible.
So is that empty lot next to, adjacent to this east side,
That's not ours.
is that your property?
No.
No? And the ramp you're planning on installing, does that block rear egress from the backside of your property?
It's not blocked on the backside of our property, but we are hemmed in. It's, but we do have a back door.
So you get out, you have rear egress from the west side of the property
No,
in the rear?
914 is next to us, it's hooked to this house, but I do own 914, we will be selling the property.
Oh, okay, okay, you're
It's
probably planning on
914 's
working on that
hooked
one
to
too
this.
in the future.
We'll be back to talk to you about 914.
Got it.
I have a question for Brooke.
Yes.
In the notes, you said that you believe, if I have this right, that the replacement door is not compatible with the texture of the historic door. Can you explain that comment?
I apologize, let me take a look at that. I know that, originally, and I apologize if it was my confusion, I thought the rear door, was a historic door, and it is clearly not. That was a mistake on my part, if I put that in there, so,
Okay, so just ignore that.
yes, I do apologize
Okay.
about that.
All right. Anything else from the board? Anything from the audience?
Good.
I gotta ask the people in the fence, sorry.
I thought you were done.
Sorry. All right, hearing none, we will go to our findings of fact. Tom, you wanna start us off,
Sure.
please? Thank you. She's getting it there. Thank you. Makes it a little easier.
Yeah. Oh. So, per the residential guidelines on 60 and 61, windows are prominent building components, and the historic windows should be retained, maintained, and if needed, repaired. It sounds like the existing windows that you do have, you're going to repair those and maintain them. And then the windows that you're putting in on the side for light will match those windows that are currently there. Original windows should be preserved in the original size, location, and design with the additional or original materials and number of panes. Sounds like you're being consistent in the new windows that you hope to add on the east side. Windows should be repaired rather than replaced. If severe deterioration necessitates replacement, 80% of the window must be missing or deteriorated. New wood windows should be in kind to match the original design and materials, which I believe you are doing. You're using wood windows to match the existing windows. Baked enamel or anodized aluminum may also be appropriate. Vinyl clad wood windows should not be installed on any facade visible from the street. So, other than adding the windows, which we don't like addition of windows on the front facade of any building, you are adding them on the side for light, and that seems to make sense in this particular situation. Doors and entrances. Doors are often buildings' central visual elements and are particularly important features. Historic entrances and doors should be retained, maintained, and if needed, repaired. Missing or severely deteriorated doors should be replaced with historically appropriate replacements. Screen, storm, security doors should not detract from the historic appearance of the building. Just historic doors should be retained and preserved, as we mentioned. They are also appropriate models for replacement. If necessary, replacement doors should be wood with or without glass lights and should complement the style of the house. It sounds to me as if the doors that are there are not historic, and you're replacing them with doors that would be more appropriate. And wood doors, I believe I heard you say. Deteriorated or damaged historic doors should be repaired using methods that allow them to retain their historic appearance. That's not really applicable in this situation. Missing or severely damaged doors, when 80% is missing, deteriorate should be replaced with examples that replicate the original or similar door. And replacement doors should be painted, paneled, wood, or with or without single or multiple glass openings. And I believe that you've met those requirements.
Owen?
I concur for the same reasons.
Mike?
I agree for the same reason.
Jerome?
I agree, same reasons.
And I too agree for the same reasons. With that, we will accept the motion.
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to William Peckinpah, for the proposed addition of doors and windows at 912 West First Street.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Brooke?
Josh Wilbur,
Approved.
Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
Thomas Stark,
Approve.
Owen McCall,
Approved.
and Mike Pittman.
Approved.
All right. You will get your COA in the mail. You can begin construction as soon as you have all the building permits that you need. Thank you very much. All right, our next application is 928 Park Avenue.
Hello.
Jeff, I'm gonna state your name and address.
Yeah,
first.
Chad Gray, 1000 East Dugan Hall Road, Madison.
All right. Brooke?
This building owned by Chad Gray is a circa 1854 Greek revival, zone general business. The COA request is to add 2 exits on the east side to conform to fire code and replace the northeast front door with a new metal and glass door. You'll see the staff approvals that have been issued prior in August of 21 was to reopen the closed entrance doors on the east side to create 2 egress-ingress doors to meet state fire code. And then in December of 21 to install an ADA ramp on the eastern elevation. And if you go through the photographs, you'll notice this one, for example, a drawing of the proposed door on the left. On the right, this is where the door actually has already been installed. And this is the one in the application. This is an interior picture, I know it's super dark, of the front doors on the northeast side that he's wanting to have replaced. And if we go back to that, if we go back to that first picture, those doors on the double doors that you see right there, those are the doors of the interior picture we were looking at. The next, so this slide does show that the doors do have some deterioration, but nothing that couldn't be repaired or retrofit, and that is all I have.
Chad, you add anything to that?
Yeah, so the side doors, I had filled out and done the COA in September, and I had done a little drawing where they were at, and then I did get the COA, and I didn't even notice until they said something, because I had the building inspector out to look at the ADA ramp, or just looking at different things. And on that door, I didn't cut out cinder block entrance, like the COA had said, and I just didn't read the COA when I got it back, so that was a misunderstanding. I had ordered the doors, and we installed them, and then we're here a little late, so that was probably my fault. The front door, so I needed 108 inches for fire code by the marshal too, and they have to have push bars. So the front entrance doors all swing in.
These are here, these are.
Yes. So all those doors swing in, and I can modify them, but I really wanted a handicap entrance for a wheelchair, and that building didn't have any entrance whatsoever. So instead of putting a real long ramp down the front of the building, I went off the side of the building. It's all aluminum clad, everything. You can see the doors that I put in. Now that front door, I may not need to replace. I'd rather not.
This one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, unless the fire marshal says, hey, you need another push bar. If it comes down to like modifying that door, that's just, it's just an old barn door from,
So it slides?
no, it swings open.
Okay.
So the interior picture of that door shows where there's like a 4x4
Yeah,
across
that's
it,
what I
and it
thought.
swings in. That's kind of like
Yeah.
the lock that's been there forever. But that's not very safe for fires, for people to get out. If they need another entrance, then I'll have to replace that door. There's no way to put a push bar on that door. It's like the equivalent of like a 3/4 sheet of plywood, basically. But I am gonna try to keep that door. I like the way it looks from the front of the building, and I did everything on the side of the building to keep the face of the building looking like it does.
Yeah.
So that your COA application is, it's not for this door, it's for the one you've already put in? How does that
Yeah,
work?
so the COA, I did get a COA for the side doors. Now, the COA was to take out the cinder blocks. I don't know if you've ever looked at the side of the building. I don't think I took a picture of it. There was a lot of cinder blocks there where there was one entrance, and then I cut out the actual brick and put in a new steel lintel for that big door. I did get the COA for that in September, but I think we're still discussing those doors too, right? Brooke? Or just the front one now?
No, the side door, it's just that side glass door, the double with the
Okay.
side lights, that is here before the board, and then should be this door.
Okay, yeah, so we're discussing, yes, we're discussing the side door that's already installed, and then this front one. Now, back to this front one, I may not have to do anything to it, but just in case they say, hey, you need to replace this door, I don't have that 60-day delay of doing I just wanna get approved for it, and then I hope.
You
not
wanna,
to.
you want that one to be a full metal door.
It'll be the same as the other side except for a different dimension. It's gonna have the exact same lintel, it's gonna have the exact same, I'm not changing anything on the outside except for the door. I'm
And you would
keeping
go
the
to one
framing,
door, or you go, still have two doors?
Still have two doors, and that is two doors there.
Yeah,
They
that's what I
swing.
thought. Okay.
They're just gonna come swing outward, and
rather
they're gonna
than-
have the push bar
Right.
for fire safety.
But, I mean,
Wouldn't have
it
any
doesn't
side
look hardly deteriorated at all. Couldn't you just use the door that's there and just fix it up?
Well,
Not
they,
this, I'm not talking about this, of course.
no, the front door
Front
is,
door.
it's tongue and groove 1x is what that's made out of. It's barn, it's like, you know, a wood barn siding. It may look good, but I guess I didn't take a good enough picture.
But you said it
Um,
pushes in, it doesn't go.
Yeah, it pushes in. I'd have to rehinge it, it'd have to come outward,
So, yeah,
and it has to have push
push, yeah.
bars.
Oh,
it-
and it would have to have push bars,
Yes, yeah, for sure.
for sure.
Yeah, well, that's what they
If
have
the
said
fires-
so far, but I may
If
not
the
have to
fire-
replace this door, like I
So
said.
it may not have to have push.
If it doesn't have to have push bars, he may not replace it at all. That's when he's not, you know, going to replace it, right?
So I replaced the side doors, and I have 108 inches of exits. So I shouldn't have to replace this front door.
I see.
But if they say it has to swing outward, I'm gonna get rid of it and put in something that's going to be more functional. This door is not very functional at all. I don't know if you can tell
What
by-
is the width of each one of those doors?
I think that's like 74 and a half.
For
This
each
one here,
one?
this is a,
Oh,
no,
for
no, no.
the total, both.
Let's see, I can't remember on this one, I think it's 42. If you go back to that, well, I did submit a,
So you're before us today just in case you need to.
just in case,
That's
yes.
it.
Yes,
For
if they say
this
I need to
front.
replace this door and it needs to swing outward, then,
Well, because they're right next to each other, that other door is just around this corner, right?
exactly, that's on the face of the building, the other door is, this is on the side. And this is where I'm putting the ramp, it's just gonna come this way, so this is a slab of concrete, and then, you know, an inch drop for
That's
16 feet,
replaceable for the-
is how far that goes out. So this is just where the ADA entrance is, this is my main entrance, and if I have to replace the front door to swing out, I'm gonna have to do something with it, I'm gonna have to get rid of what's there.
Do you intend to use any of the doors across the front on the
No.
north side? Okay.
No,
And the other two, I believe there are two going
Yes.
west, and you plan on leaving them the same?
yes, I'm leaving them the
That's-
same, they're all gonna, it's gonna look exactly like it does now.
Well, couldn't you just flip the door jamb upside down so they just swung out instead of swinging in? Just use everything that's there.
No, I would have to recess the hinges towards the out. So these doors would have to, you can't even hardly tell, but this is probably a 16-inch jamb here. These would have to come out to the outside, and it wouldn't match what's there. Now, if I do a new aluminum clad door, then I can
You said it.
have it, yeah, exactly. It'll be set in, I'll have, you know, whatever that is, 2.5 inches of frame around it, and then I can put a 90-degree stop on them where they won't hit the brick of the
So
building.
interior wise, that's all one room, the two big double doors with the double lights you've got on the back, on the east side, and then these doors here that you may have to replace. That's all one room.
It's one room,
That's all one room. That's the main entrance to your structure.
yes.
Chad, you said that, how thick were those doors again, the wood doors?
It's like 1 by old Tony Root barn siding, so it's probably,
If you had
3/4
a fire,
inch.
and people were hitting that full blast, would it survive people hitting that thing full blast? I mean, would it break, would it go break?
this door?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would, I don't know.
I guess if I'm the fire marshal, I'm not gonna approve a door that's not gonna survive people trying to exit quickly.
Oh, that door, yeah, if I have to, yeah, no, it has to swing out. So if there's a rush of people,
You wanna get
that
out,
door
don't
is
you?
not
You don't
really
care about the
usable.
door.
So let me ask you a question. You know, the thing that I get hung up on is the front of that building. I mean, you guys have done a beautiful job. And is there any way, if you have to replace this door, that you could have it constructed to look like that door so that the consistent look goes all the way across the front? We don't lose that?
I mean, anything's possible, you know.
Would you consider it?
Well, I have another set of doors that's an older set of doors that I have to plane down, and cost-wise, it would actually be cheaper to do the anodized doors, or the aluminum doors, and they're a lot more efficient, I guess you would say, with,
Yeah.
you know, double pane. The door that I'm proposing is not going to affect the lintel, the existing size, and it's gonna be the exact same thing that you would see at the front of the cotton mill, tack factory, any of the remodels on the old buildings with the face. It'd be the exact same door that they would have. There's no difference. I mean, they're just doing aluminum clad, double pane windows. And I'm not saying I'm going to put one in, I don't want to, but if they say I have to, then I'd like to get approved for it, so I don't have to wait another 60 days, you know. And I could just order the door instead of coming back here.
And I guess the only option, maybe other option, might be to make it so there's a vestibule, basically, so those doors are open all the time while the business is open, and then you'd have your aluminum clad.
Exactly, so I've thought of that as doing something similar, but they're still gonna have to come out flush with the brick on the outside. Like I said, it's probably a 14-inch jamb, so it's gonna look funny, it won't even match the rest of the doors. Whereas my proposal has, you know,
And what are you gonna do with the other doors
Glass
down
above
the road
it.
from here? You got two other doors on the front of this property, are you gonna plan on replacing those down the road too?
no.
Those are gonna stay.
Bert, can you bring up the front of the building that shows all three doors? Or the
You have
tall-
a picture of this with all three doors.
It's the very first one.
Now, my only reason I brought that up was consistency wise, when we're looking at it from the front, you'll have one modern door and then two
Yeah, if you
original.
get to the face, then the transom above would match the other two doors. Like
Right.
the glass above the door, and so you would have, I can't really see, but, so this would be the door that would be replaced if I had to replace it. You can't really tell, but there's glass up here, and you see how it would match the same here.
The new door.
The new door, yes, I would have.
A transom.
Originally, this isn't the original door, but it's similar to the barn door that was on the face of it 150 years ago or whatever, but I would have, yeah, the transom would match up here, like the glass that's there.
So it would visually look new, but design-wise, it would be more consistent than actually what's there right now, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I would say so, yes, for sure. But I'm not one to change the face of the building. I mean, you saw the building a few years ago, so you see what we've done. And the reason I did the doors on the side was, you know, so I didn't have to change a face. I don't have to put a giant handicap ramp in the front, you know.
Yeah.
So we wanted to keep the face of the building the same and just work off to the side. And like I said, I don't think I'm gonna have to replace that door, but if they tell me I do, then
So, Chad, I wanna go back to the doors you already put in. Why'd you put them in already without coming in front of the board first?
Well, I submitted a drawing and it had the side of the building and I proposed where the doors were gonna go. And it's for fire safety and that's why they give me the COA to do it. And then I did it and then they said I should go in front of the board. Because,
So you had a COA from staff to go ahead and put the doors in, that door?
yes, but,
True.
and I gave him the drawing with, yeah,
It-
but,
The COA actually says that he can reopen previously infilled entrance, and that was the one on the east rear. So it would be the southeast side. If we go back to the photo of the side of that building,
yeah.
you can clearly see, and I have a copy of the COA I can show, but it says to reopen, not to create a new.
Yeah, the cinder blocks are what I was,
You're
and if you
noticing-
go to the side of the building, I can show you where, yeah, so, oh, look, there's my little door. There's a door, and then there's a door, but this is a cinder block, and I was putting the other door here, but when I got the COA, I was like, you can remove the cinder block. I didn't get the COA, to be honest with you. They said I was good to go on an email, and, you know, that was my fault when I didn't look at it, but I ordered the doors after I got the COA, and then we went ahead and installed it. And nobody said anything until I had the building inspector out for the ramp, and they said I should go in front of the board, so. But I did those doors, you know, based on your guys' guidelines, keep it on the side of the building, don't do anything to the face of the building, and it's for, when I spoke to the architect and the fire marshal, they were basically like, it doesn't really matter, it's fire safety and trumps anything that anybody, you know, not saying that they said you guys' thoughts don't matter or anything, but they're like, it's for fire safety, like, you can't open this building to the public without changing
True, but
doors
you
or adding
haven't,
doors
but you
somewhere.
haven't opened it up to the public yet, right?
No,
That's,
no.
that's, and the thing
This is just part of it that I had to
what
do.
we have to
do so.
be, you know, I'm probably gonna, you know, be a little harsh with this, but, you know, doing work before you come before the board, I'm gonna tell you, it doesn't make any sense for me to even think about it. Then I think the city needs to take it up and maybe figure out what to do. Because I don't understand what we're approving if you're gonna do the work before we even get yours, right? I'm
Yeah.
not, don't take it the wrong way, I'm just saying that it, you know, really doesn't make sense for me to waste my time being in this position if people are gonna do the work before they even come in here.
Yes, of
Right.
course, and
So-
I don't do that, but I did do that.
I'm not saying
I
you
did.
always do that, I'm
This
just,
is my
you know,
fault,
saying this
you know.
as a, just to have it on record
Of
that
course.
it's very difficult for this board when we have to look at things after they've already been done, and it, really doesn't make sense at that point in time. Because
Of course.
it's been done already, then it really comes to the point, well, now do you have to reverse what you've done? And that, no one on this board wants somebody to have to reverse what they've already done, because we know what you put money into it. So it's, difficult thing, so.
Well, this is the first time that that's happened with me. It's not something
I know.
I did on purpose.
Again,
I understand, and it's nothing with them either. It was misleading on probably I just didn't read the COA that said remove the center block. You have permission for that, And my drawing's not that great, but you guys are probably used to my poor drawings.
It's all right. I appreciate it. Thank you. Anything more from the board? All right. Any questions, concerns from the audience? All right. With that, Owen, you want to take us through findings of fact?
Okay, so doors and entrances, it's page 40 and 42 on the commercial guidelines. Doors are often important visual elements of storefront. Historic entrances and doors should be retained, maintained, and if needed, repaired. Missing or severely deteriorated doors should be replaced with historically appropriate doors. Screen, storm, and security doors should not detract from the historic appearance of the building. Okay, number one, historic doors should be retained and maintained. Two, primary entrances to commercial buildings should be accessible to meet ADA requirements. Okay. Three, if historic doors do not allow for universal access, they should be retrofitted. Okay, perhaps that's what we're doing here. Number four, deteriorated or damaged historic doors should be repaired using methods that allow them to retain their historic fabric as much as possible. Replace deteriorated wood in-kind material, also known as adjustment repair. Okay, number five, owners are encouraged to replace missing or severely damaged, unserviceable historic doors with new doors that replicate the originals or other historic examples. Okay, clear glass, single light or multiple light painted wood doors are usually appropriate for replacing missing original primary doors in the district's commercial buildings. Okay, so looking at that, of course, number one, we want to maintain a historic door if possible, and you said you would like to do that. Number two, talks about the ADA. Perhaps you have to have a door that wide, the new glass you need put in to make it where a wheelchair could get through there. I guess it has to be wider than, of course, nothing is there, so you're putting in an ADA compliant door. Okay, number four, your damaged historic doors should be repaired, so that would argue that you should try to repair rather than replace that door on the front side. And so I guess I would say that, I agree that it would be reasonable to do what you're proposing with the front door, because you want to keep that one.
Mm-hmm.
And, but if the fire marshal should force your hand on that one, at least the new door that you're proposing to put in actually has its structure, although will be obviously new, will be more consistent with the other lights and doors along that front side. So I think that is a good thing. Of course, as Josh mentioned, I don't see how we can even approve something that's already been done. So to me, by definition, we have to reject an ADA for the side door because it's already been done. There's nothing to approve, so why even approve it? So I guess I would say I like your plan with the front door, but the side door is kind of beyond anything that we can help with because it's complete. So that's all I have.
Mike?
I've been looking at this front picture, and if I look at the two single doors that are there, they don't match based on what I'm looking at here on the picture. Looks like one light, one window goes almost 3/4, the other's about half the door, so I would agree with Owen. somewhat, but I would also say that if you need to modify the glass in that door, if you need to modify that double door you're gonna replace, then you'd have enough flexibility to make the glass something that would be appropriate to the front, because the other two single doors don't match either, so. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's what I would do. As far as the side door goes, I've been involved in projects where you're working away and things are happening and you gotta get things done, and I understand that. And yes, we want you to come before the board. It makes it a lot easier for all of us.
Yeah.
You get a chance to see what you're doing, and you demonstrated that you do try to follow the guidelines. So I have no issue with what you did on the side, except I don't think you're gonna get.
No. I mean, I did apply, like I said, it was just,
I understand.
you know, I got the COA, but then when I got it,
But I agree with you.
Jerome?
I agree with the same reasons.
Tom?
So I'm kind of hearing a mixed message. The side doors are not gonna work for you if you don't have the ADA ramp, right? You have to have that to be compliant, to use that as your main entrance, is that correct?
yeah, well, I mean, if I'm open to the public, I wanna be open to wheelchairs. So,
Right.
yeah, no matter what, it's gonna be accessible.
So.
If I put a big ramp down the front of the building, that's
No,
what I would do,
yeah.
exactly, so that's why it's on the side.
So I guess I agree with everything that Owen said, except he needs the ADA ramp on the northeast side where you put the new doors and side lights.
Yes, which I
that
have a
would be my
COA for
only-
that.
My only objection, otherwise I agree with everything you just said, yeah.
So, in saying that, are you saying that you would vote for an ADA, I mean, for a COA, for the side door?
Remember, this is
or
for
it-
findings of fact, he's just saying that he agrees with what you said on findings of fact.
Right.
But just disagrees with the, statement on the side doors, and
Yes.
that it, shouldn't be considered because it was already put in. He thinks it still should be considered.
Okay, I see, I understand.
Yeah, sorry.
And I agree with Tom for the same reasons. I think that, you do have to have the ADA. We're not here to say you can't have ADA, and that's obviously, we want that as well, especially with a commercial business. So my point on putting something in before the board got here is just to make a point of, it makes it really hard on us, and I think you got the message, and I appreciate, how you took it. So, but I agree, like I said, with Tom for some reasons. All right, we have a motion.
I'll make a motion that based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant its certificate of appropriateness for Chad Gray for the property at 928 Parkett Avenue for the ADA ramp and the doors as discussed during the meeting.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Brooke?
Josh Wilbur,
Approved.
Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
Tom Stark,
Approved?
Owen McCall,
Approve?
and Mike Pittman.
Approved.
All right, Chad, you'll get the COA now. Of course, you already know about building permits.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate it. Sorry to be so complicated.
No, you're fine. I appreciate how you spelled it out for us. Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate the
thanks.
work you're doing. All right, our next application is 403 West First Street.
Do you have the COA?
Could you state your name and address for us?
Louis Joyner, architect, 4177 Seventh Street, Columbus. I'm here representing John Morgan.
Columbus, Indiana?
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. Brooke? Sorry.
This property owned by John Morgan is a circa 1880 Italianate, zoned historic district residential. The COA request is to add a new roof over a portion of the existing second floor terrace on the south side of the home. All elements to match materials, details, and colors of existing covered porch on east side of home, and to rework the existing second floor porch railing to meet code required height of 36 inches, whereas it is currently 32 inches. And if you take a look at the pictures, you'll see in this first picture, it shows the elevation with the second floor gallery above, that currently that's the rear section that currently does not have the roof, so the south, facade. The next photo, again, just shows that same, image of the, second floor galleries. The next photo is, one of the south elevation, so that with the proposed, new porch roof on it, so you can see what it will look like finished, what they're proposing to do. The next photograph. Oh, you don't have that one? Okay. Let's see, can we switch real quick? Sorry, guys. Alright, so this photograph is a 1927 photo from the Lemon Collection showing the home. You can see kind of, if you look at it, that rear south facade, the second floor gallery, did not have a roof on it at that time.
Yeah.
And then if we look at the Sanborn maps, it also indicates the 1892 on the left and 1911 on the right, that it did not have a roof on the second floor gallery either during that period. Now if we look at the actual plans, you can see the top left quadrant showing existing, the top and bottom left. If you look at the top right, you'll see the proposed new roof addition and what that will look like. Another rendering, just showing a site plan. And this would be from above, looking at the roof line, and the changes that would, the new second floor gallery roof would entail. And that is all I have.
Would you like to add anything to that, or?
So, it's a how to me at this point.
No, you can go over there if you'd like. I mean, absolutely. No
So
problem.
the porch there, that's wrapping around has been there in various forms. At least John has an earlier photograph. You can see it's an Italianate porch, but then morphed into sort of a more neo-colonial porch. And this is actually kind of a third version of it. But it's always kind of built and kind of growing and changing over the life of the house. The owner asked for additional porch on the second floor because it's hot and it's a great place to sit and go to the river. The decision was, and he actually pointed it out, is that didn't really want to wrap the roof around on the second level. Partly kind of like to have a little more sun there. Also, I think that it helps break down the bulk of that, so that it really isn't. You don't get the sense of it as this kind of giant wrapping thing. It's adding on to the house. We're following all the details as much as we can on the original porch. So we'll just be basically duplicating it. We're increasing the railing height because right now it's at 32 inches, and we don't know the exact history of that. It looks like the spindles are older. They've got a fair amount of weathering on them, but they've been well maintained and worked on. But the railing was rebuilt at some point in the last 20 years. And it should, even at that time, it should not have been allowed to be at 32 inches.
Yeah.
So, just as a matter of safety, we like to go to 36s.
But isn't the lower railing better for looking at the river? I mean, that's what you're up there for, right?
Yeah, but you also don't want to, I can't put my license on the line for a railing doesn't meet code, so I'd rather not.
Okay, so, but since it's there, I mean, you're not obligated to bring it up to code, is that
Well,
correct?
but we're gonna be doing enough alterations to it, because it's gonna have to be removed and then reinstalled as part of this.
Yeah.
So,
So then is every railing on the whole top of the house gonna be consistent? Or you
just
now
the
have-
upper railing, oh yeah, will be.
Oh, the
all the
upper
same.
railing all the way around.
And it's a 4-inch change, and we played with a couple of options on that, and John's got them to review. But I think we're gonna, the current plan is to, go into the details. We're trying to do this in a way that's as unobtrusively as possible, so that it looks like a consistent thing that's designed, was as designed, so.
Did I hear you say that you're not changing the height then of the lower level railing?
Not at this point.
Okay.
Is it gonna be a flat roof then? Are you
It's
going-
got about, it's a little bit of a slope,
Okay.
and then it comes down to a box gutter.
So what type of material will you use for it?
It's currently TPO, so it's a membrane roof on the existing one, so
Okay.
I was
Just
gonna
gonna
do that.
use
You
it.
can't see it from the
No.
floor.
Okay.
So the bottom railing along the bottom porch, is that actually, I looked at the house today, and to me, and you're looking at it, it looks to me like you cannot see the bottom part of the top railing from the road. It's overhangs, it's really difficult to see that.
Uh-huh.
But the bottom railing actually looks like it might be 36 inches in
I
height.
measured it, it's 32.
It's 32 as
Yeah.
well? Well, yeah, looks like it'd be a pretty scary fall from way up there.
From way up there, yeah, even from the lower, it's, most of that is several feet above grade, so.
But you said the railing had been replaced maybe over the past 20, 25 years or so.
Actually, I think that he had quite a bit of work done on it in the last, 10, 15 years ago, I think. And I don't know what the history of that was.
And the spindles and all the rest, you're not gonna replace those, you'll just raise that whole thing
So
up and put a
we want to
railing.
come up with a way where we can just like maintain that as intact as possible, and because there's a lot of material there. And
It seemed to me in the guidelines, what they recommend to bring that up to code was to raise the entire railing and then put a bar or some type of something on the bottom. I guess there's a bottom rule as well or something in the
yeah,
code.
see, we don't want to
Certain.
have it less than 4 inches.
4 inches.
The 4 inches is here.
Exactly.
And we actually did have one option where we looked at that, and it kind of got busy.
It didn't look right?
It didn't look right. So what we're thinking, what our favorite option is, and John's got to approve it, but we basically take the top rail off, and first of all, we raise the whole thing by about an inch, because it's coming out anyway, right? But we want this bottom rail to, there's like little feet on these posts, right? So we don't want to bring that up so far that it's now beyond that. We want to have that come in and hit that properly. So we'll bring it up just a little bit, then, and then right through here, we're going to insert another, like a molding through there. So that then it becomes, bottom rail, spindle, molding, and then the top rail. And so I think that it'll look pretty consistent. It'll be a little different from the lower one.
So it looks like the top rail's a little bulkier than the bottom rail. It's on the top,
Right.
on the handle.
And it may be that then over time, the first floor one will get modified to meet code.
Any other questions?
I have a question for Brooke. I'm seeing here in your notes, Brooke, you're saying that you don't believe the project is in conformance with the guidelines because the roof addition is not architecturally appropriate. Because the slope of the roof is too shallow?
No, it's because Italianate homes, by and large, typically did not have a roof on a second floor gallery. And I got that from, I go to say her name and I apologize, that writes the book on the houses, field guy, or houses, Big Savage, wasn't it, Savage? Yeah, Dr. Savage wrote basically the book on, architectural styling. And, anyway, it was, after doing some research, some properties do have a roof on a second floor gallery on an Italian structure. But the overwhelming majority of structures do not. So that's why I put, that it was not in conformance for architectural styling. The other thing I mentioned was on the railings, that, there are exceptions, to building code. And so if we look at, Building Officials Code Administrators Organization, BOCA, or International Building Codes, there are exceptions, and that there are many, many ways to meet safety requirements, without changing railing height. So.
Oh, really? What
Yes.
would that be?
Name one.
Okay, well, one is that you could actually do an installation of a small, for lack of a better word, let's say a dowel rail, above the railing. So you could actually put, another layer, let's say, we need to make 4 inches.
Steel bar, yeah, we
Right.
considered that.
But there's, and like you mentioned before, raising, the bottom of the existing railing a little bit. But typically, it doesn't sound like much, but it can be a pretty significant visual change, because historically railings could even be as low as 26 inches. And we know that's not safe. But there are, just to make note, there are exceptions and other ways to modify. So, I've also seen it done with, glass paneling, to where it's not visually, you don't see it from the road.
A clear thing up there,
Mhm.
I see.
Mhm.
But the existing porch on the, I guess it's the north side, does have, already has a roof over it. So he's really just bringing, he's just making it just consistent. Wrapping it around, so
Mhm.
we're not really changing the architectural style of this building. It's just sort of filling it out a bit more with more of what's already there.
Correct, and you are right, there is, precedent with that small roof section on the, east side.
Okay. Thank you.
And just judging from the paint buildup on that east side, it's been there a while, so it was probably that 1920s
Mhm.
image that you had, is essentially this, but with layers of additional work. But the basic structure of that thing is probably the 1920s.
So this picture of what it would look like makes the actual balustrade and the railing look the same size as the lower. Do you have a picture with 4 more inches added on top of that?
Didn't bring it.
Okay, just thought I would ask, because it does make a difference in, visual.
Yeah.
And you can see the back of this house, obviously from Broadway. I'm just curious to how it would look, 4 inches taller than, the
Yeah.
lower level. And the stairs leading down into the back garden.
It sounds like Mr. Morgan hasn't picked really the rendition yet for the
Right.
realm. Knowing that he hasn't and not, the show kind of what that would do
Exactly.
visually,
Yeah.
is that something that Mr. Morgan would be okay in delaying the board and making that decision on that until he has picked that and come back?
Yeah, because I don't think that decision would affect the process of.
Right, because you're gonna take it out anyway, right? You're gonna have to put the roof, the roof up if that's approved and
Mhm.
stuff before you put it back, so it's something that maybe another month from now, you could come back and we could delay it for a month and then come back with a rendition so we could look at it.
Sure.
Is that something you think you'd be okay with? Is the board okay with that possibly?
Sounds like
Yes.
a good solution.
Yeah, go ahead with the roof and then go
Right.
back on the
And,
railing.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we have, you know.
we still would have the columns to have to
Yeah.
look at, but not the railings.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions, concerns from the audience? All right, hearing none, then at this point, let's do this. Is it okay if we take a vote on delaying the portion on the railings now? Is that a problem, Nicole, Brooke?
Mhm.
Okay. Is the board okay with that, taking care of that first and then going through findings of fact? on this? Okay, so can I get a motion on the delay for a month to, on the railings of this house?
Do we have, okay, so we have, okay,
Yes, he's okay with that.
so then I propose that the board, table the decision on the railings balustrades on this project until, next meeting in February.
You have a second?
Second.
Brooke?
Mike Pittman,
Approved?
Owen McCall,
Approved.
Tom Stark,
Approve.
Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
and Josh Wilbur.
Approved. So that basically allows you to delay the railings till next month. You don't have to redo the application or anything, it just, that's the process we have to use. All right, so with that, then Mike, you wanna take us through findings of fact on the rest of the project?
Sure. Porches. Page 4950, porches are one of the most defining characteristics of historic houses. You couldn't live without them. In most cases, historic porches should be retained, maintained, and if needed, repaired. New porches should be consistent with the historic appearance of the building to which they are attached. And I want to compliment you on doing that. It was weird. I mean, if you hadn't said something that, I think once this is done, nobody's going to know that that was an add-on. Porch details should be retained, which they have been. I don't think we need to talk about replacements. The columns look very similar to what's currently up there. Original porches should not be removed, which you're not dealing with in this case, so I think porches 49 to 50 we're done with. Porch columns. Okay, railings we are delaying until
Mhm.
next.
The column, yeah, you talked to the column, right?
Yes,
Oh,
so
sorry.
column, very simple.
My fault.
Very simple.
Okay. All right, Jerome?
I agree with the same reason.
Tom?
I agree for the same reasons.
Owen?
I agree for the same reasons.
I too agree for the same reasons. So we'll accept the motion. on this project.
I'll make a motion based on the preceding findings of fact. I move that the Madison Historic Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness for the porch modification and porch column modification as presented in the application at this meeting from Lewis Joyner, the architect, John Morgan's home at 403 West First Street.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Brooke?
Before we get into that, if I may, I just want to question. In your motion, you did include columns.
Yes.
Okay, I
You
just
did.
want to make sure you were intending to do that.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Josh Wilbur,
Approved.
Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
Tom Stark,
Approve.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
and Mike Pittman.
Approved.
All right, so Lucy, you'll get a COA in the mail for the columns and for the porch, the roof, the column, everything there. The railings we'll take a look at next month. Hopefully you have some revisions for us to look at. And so we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
All right, our next application is 707 Jefferson Street.
And, my name is Adam Dupre. I'm from Fast Signs, located 215 Quartermaster Court in Jeffersonville. And I'm here on behalf of the American Legion
Okay.
at 707 Jefferson.
Thank you very much. Brooke?
As you can see, this building owned by the American Legion is a circa 1980. It has no style identified on the NHL survey, but it is zoned general business. COA request is to retrofit the existing letterboard, changeable message sign on a pole to a 6-foot by 3-foot LED digital EDMS sign using existing pole and cabinet structure. You can see an eagle-eye view of the site and where that sign location will be is on that yellow area right there. This is the current sign now. In this shot, or this image shows the current sign on the left versus the new proposed sign on the right. This is some information about the new sign, the panels that would be installed. An example of a larger, similar sign. And that is all I have.
Any questions from the board?
So when I was reading about actually reusing the framework or the box of the original sign that's there,
Correct.
the new sign looks a lot larger than the original sign. It looks longer, at least.
It's
or
not
wider.
actually, so it's using, nothing's gonna change size-wise on the actual cabinet. And actually the message area on the sign is actually a little bit smaller than what the current backlit letterboard is.
Mhm.
So the black part you see on there is actually a backer that we have to put on there in order to put the LED panels. So that blue part is going to be the actual sign itself. But as far as the overall size of the sign, nothing's changing that way. And then the actual sign portion is actually slightly smaller. So you can see like on the letterboard how it goes all the way to the edges,
Yeah.
whereas only on the blue.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? I thought that this was staff approval signs.
Staff can approve signs, but because it does not meet guidelines as far as materials and other things, then that's why it's coming to the board.
I see.
So I also read where it will have LED lights,
Correct.
and but that the intention was not to use any of the movement functionality within that sign.
Correct. So it'll
So-
be static images that, so it's not gonna have like motion or video or animation or anything like that.
No
The sign's
flashing.
capable of it,
Yeah.
but it's, the intention by the American Legion is just to put like a static image up there. And it allows them to, make announcements and that sort of thing, whereas the current sign's been that's what the message hasn't changed for years.
Yeah.
Because it's been kind of tedious in order to try to change that.
My concern is if the functionality is there, and let's say that American Legion doesn't, really want to use that functionality, it's still there. And at some point, somebody could say, well, let's use that functionality. Let's, have rolling messages or whatever. So I do have concern with that.
Yeah, that would, essentially that would fall under, them just agreeing to be compliant. Similar to, like, when we do these signs in New Albany or Jeffersonville. So for Jeffersonville, for example, you're not allowed to have the video, motion, anything like the flashing. It has to be a static image that stays up for a minimum amount of time before it changes. So same sort of thing. All of those signs are also capable of it, but it's just a matter of them making sure they stay within compliance. And then I guess, in that sort of situation, it'd be
Right.
how they're held accountable if someone were to go rogue on it.
So you couldn't like go in there and like cut a wire or something and like cripple it?
Yeah. So kind of for lack of a better word, it works a lot like this TV screen. So really, all that is the display portion of it. So it's, just like this TV, if you're feeding a slideshow that's static images, then that's what's going to show. And by taking away that capability of having those images portrayed, it takes away all the functionality of it.
I see.
How bright are the lights on this compared to what's currently up here?
Well, so you can, it actually can be adjusted, and it actually has a sensor where it can auto adjust down at night, which is what the intention was on it. So basically during the daytime when you're full light, it'll be brighter, but then as it gets darker, so you don't have like an overwhelming amount of light, it'll automatically darken because you still see the image, but you don't need as much of the brightness. But it's actually adjustable, so if there are specific brightness requirements that you want, we can actually program it to be set that way.
There's a residence pretty close to that, I wouldn't want a flat light going 24/7
Sure.
right outside.
And that's the other thing that you can do too. In the content management program that runs it, you can put on like time periods for it. So if it ends up being something, and this would be something that the American Legion would have to agree to, and that you guys can come to an agreement on, is you could have it where maybe at a certain time when it's not really as much traffic and that sort of thing, it turns off and just goes dark. But that'd be so. I don't know if that's a requirement that you guys would have or something that you guys would want to go into agreement on that. So something like after midnight or after 1 a.m. or something, it goes dark until 6 a.m. or something.
I guess I really haven't paid that much attention to the American Legion sign because it never changes, so.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not out driving a lot at night, but still I would think that would be a real distraction for people.
Well, the black letters on the original sign, it's my understanding that those are pretty much phased out now, very difficult to acquire, they're brittle and so forth, so they're running into the same kind of an issue we have across the street with the theater, where we can't find lettering for the signs, in order to change messages and so on. And as far as changing messages, you could change the message on that sign without any kind of approval. You could put anything you wanted up there on the verbiage on the existing sign. So from that standpoint, it's not much different than the CMS controlled sign.
Correct.
And it's not at the stored property. It's not a contributing property.
No, but it is across the street from historic properties. I think we have to keep that in mind as well. If we could actually enforce brightness, motion, or get an agreement so that you can program it so that it does some of the things that we've talked about, it might be a great solution. But again, without that agreement, it can just, somebody can do whatever they want to do with it.
As far as like an agreement goes, I think that they'd be very willing to have some sort of written agreement that basically holds them accountable as to, okay, this is the max nits as far as the brightness, and we agree that there'd be no motion, video, animation, flashing, and that it'll be a static image that changes once every however interval up to a maximum, like a maximum interval period.
Devin, if the motion was made with some of this being stated in it, would that basically put the Legion under the basic confines of that if they wanted to put the sign up?
Yes, because I think it would be, yes, because I think that they would have to go to assuming this would require a building permit,
Because it's just a change.
or repairs.
Yeah, they don't have to do
I was just about to look, I was pulling up the sign, stuff on that, 'cause I was wondering that. I think that it would be enforceable if somebody wanted to make a contingent on, what you're talking about. The limitations that you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would give the city something to come back and say, listen, this is how it was approved, that you have to follow this or turn it off until you get some other approval.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree with it.
just wanna get our legal opinion on it.
Yeah.
Raises a good point, though.
Right. You know,
Content.
it can make a big difference in how the board thinks with this project. So, and especially for our residents, it may not be it's not a contributing structure, but it is in a historic district, and the sign still falls under those rules because of that. So, yeah.
Brooke, is it, from what you have here, is this also in violation because the framing is made out of plastic, which is not allowed? And just the fact that it's internally lit, that itself just is a de facto violation?
Correct, so as we look at our sign ordinance, the portions that pertain to freestanding signs, you can see where, it is materials and, like you're saying, the internal lighting, which the current sign, of course, is made out of plastic and is internally lit as well, but, and then we also have another page with the ordinance that shows, flashing signs and then other things, as well.
Oh, varying intensity, we're talking about it varying in intensity on purpose.
Correct.
Depending on whether it's day or night.
Correct, and then you'll see that last sentence of, 4E, plastics may not be appropriate, things like that, so that,
Yeah.
because of those technicalities and those reasons in the ordinance, that's why.
You're talking right now though, Owen, the current one, if you light it up, it varies in intensity compared to, signs are meant to vary in intensity. It just depends how you take that. Like, does it vary in intensity from one message to another? I think that's what they're talking about, because that almost represents, represents flashing.
Right.
The
Yeah.
spirit of that is, we see this a lot, we work in a lot of municipalities, and the spirit of that is, there are people that will do like a transition, kind of, you can think like a PowerPoint transition, so it'll, fade out and fade back in, but that really creates like a motion type link, and so, I think that's just to cover, we see that a lot in a lot of the codes or signs, where I think it's just the spirit of it is to be like, make sure all bases are covered so it doesn't come down to a conversation with someone where it's like, well, that's not blinking, that's fading in and out. So I think they're just covering their bases, which any good code and an ordinance should. So.
Yeah, this is kind of new, and I think the concern I have really is coming down the hill and having this potentially widely dynamic sign flashing all sorts of messages to folks. And as a driver, I'd be totally distracted coming down into Madison where it's, narrower streets and everything's slow down and so on. We got more of it. My concern is probably more safety and city code than historically appropriate considering.
So that's why most, a lot of municipalities will do, if they don't allow the motion and the animation, they'll do it where it has to be static for 60 seconds. So at that point, you're not really most likely in your passing as a car, you're most likely not having a changing of the message.
But it
So
still
it'd
will
be-
fade in and fade out with different messages.
You could change it. You guys could set the terms to how you
Your
want
transitions
that.
can just be a quick change.
Yeah, just
You
to-
can just go
just
from
to-
one message and then just goes to a different one that stays there for 60 seconds and then another one.
So it's
No transition fading or, one letter at a time.
Yeah.
It could just be, it has to be a quick change.
But that is movement.
Well,
Motion.
you have motion, but it's motion once every 60 seconds or whatever.
And it's just a quick change
It's a
as
very
far
quick
as,
change.
that goes.
But, they could go out there now, like Jerome said, and change it every 60 seconds if they wanted to. I mean, it would be a little crazy, but they could. I mean, it's feasible now.
I guess I'd like to see a little more information on what the capabilities of your sign are. address some of our constraints that we're looking for.
So as far as,
So as far as, you know, how you can set the intensity of lighting, how you can set the timing of it, how you can change the message.
Yeah.
so it's a, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I agree with Mike, and also if we could find out what they would be willing to agree to in terms of intensity and.
Oh, he's from the American Legion.
Would you like to come up and state your name and address first? And then
I would,
we'll
sir.
speak to the thing.
My name is Michael Bath. My address is 2050 Michigan Road here in Madison. I'm the first vice commander of the American Legion Post.
Thank you.
And this was kind of my idea to bring this sign up. You've already mentioned some of the things that our concern is, and I think everybody in the room kind of chuckled when they said that letter sign hasn't changed in 10 years. It hasn't. We got to call the city and ask for a bucket truck every time we got to go out there. Like you mentioned, most of our letters have been lost in one flood or another in our basement, and we, quite frankly, can't change it. So we need to put something up that helps our business out. Ever since COVID, we've been struggling, trying to compete. We got a lot of new businesses here in town, you know, with the new Central Hotel, Mad Paddle, all this. We're all in kind of competition with each other. And all we're trying to do is get a simple message out there to the public. No flashing, no scrolling back and forth. And we're more than willing to have any kind of agreement that you deem reasonable, because all we're looking to do is any given time, you know, this is the American Legion with our logo up, and that would stay static for a period of time. I mean, doesn't matter, 60 seconds, 5 minutes, I don't care. But then we would flash to another, not flash, but it would evolve to another message that, like, for example, 6 months ago, we opened our treasure hunt drawing to the public. We'd like to have that message out there so when people do drive by, they can see that. Or we do have times on Fridays when we have live bands. We can say who the band is and that they're open to the public. Because being a private club, sometimes we are open to the public, sometimes we're not. And we're just looking for a way that we can get that message out there. And if it helps with your decision to agree to some set of terms as far as, I don't know that there's any way for him to put any kind of a lockout on it, but we could certainly are open to any kind of agreement that would go with your certificate of appropriateness that would limit it, that we could be held to from a performance standpoint.
Yeah, it's tough for me, even because I think with all of our other, you know, businesses downtown, no one has LED for their, you know, their main sign for their property. And what would that open up, you know, with everybody else saying, oh, you know, that's what we'd like to do too. We'd like to have messages that, hey, we got a special tonight, you know, come in and get $2 margaritas or something, right? And does that open it up for that? That's the things that keep going through my mind. I want the American Legion to prosper downtown. And you guys have been a great business for us. It's just a matter of what will this sign do, and the precedent it might set elsewhere. That's my big concern. Obviously, safety is, but my concern is going to be what are we going to get now with all the other businesses wanting to do relatively kind of the same thing, right? They're in competition, obviously, with you, and you know, are they going to want something that changes every 60 seconds, every 2 minutes that they can put in as well? So I don't know what that might be for a main sign. Now, my question is, you know, to you guys, I've seen signs where they're the mobile signs, and they can put the mobile signs up, and hey, we got a special this weekend and so forth, and that's never, I don't think, been challenged that I know of. You know, how does that factor into this same conversation? Because it's not the main sign?
So sandwich signs are those ones that you're talking about, and they're included in this ordinance as an allowed sign, so they typically are approved by staff.
Okay, so you consider that a sandwich sign. What they're doing is definitely not a sandwich.
Correct.
Does that, if I may ask the question, does that include a, like an electronic sign? I mean, like when you see the city will push a trailer out and have a
Right,
sign
yeah,
on there
there's,
that lights up?
that's how a lot of signs now, you get those mobile, you
That's
know, LED
what I thought your
signs.
question was
That
about.
could be considered a sandwich sign from, you know, at this point in time.
So there are certain stipulations, and I believe, so I'm looking at our sign ordinance.
Well, there's letter size, there's font, there's there's all sorts of restrictions as far as what you can do with a sign. The difference here is that we're dealing with a totally dynamic system that's operated by a CMS system, and 5 or 6 years down the road, anybody could get in there and change it and make it do whatever they want it to do. And I don't think we have any kind of current regulations dealing with that.
So, that mobile sign falls under temporary signs, which is, any sign originally constructed or designed for mobility, either self-propelled or non-self-propelled, shall be considered mobile and not a permanent sign.
So-
Each mobile sign shall not remain on display for a period exceeding 4 weeks at a time, is limited to 1 mobile sign per pedestrian level tenant or 1 sign for each upper level tenant. Mobile signs may appear without illumination or may be illuminated, subject to the review of the board.
So basically, what that's telling me is that if they did an LED sign that was mobile, that looked like a sandwich sign basically, and you put that out there, you know, for less than a 4-week period and pull it back in and then put it back out again at another time, you know, when you want to get messages out about being open, you know, having your one game that you had open, you know, to the public and or you have specials or whatever else. Sounds to me like that's something that they could approve, actually. And that may be kind of your way around this main sign being done.
Actually, if I may, can you pull the picture up of the existing sign?
Absolutely.
We considered that, and the
Okay.
problem with that is if you recall, it doesn't show real good in that picture, but right in, well, yeah, I mean, you got parking lot and then you got a great big ditch there. I mean, in order to put a temporary sign up, we would almost have to build a structure resembling some kind of bridge, elevation above that ditch, you know, because we can't go out on the roadway. Well, if we put a temporary sign back into the parking lot, nobody's gonna see it anyway. So that's why we actually did consider that. But with that great big deep ditch there, it didn't leave us much option. And we have the existing structure, is what we were hoping to be able to utilize.
And I guess like some of the concern as to what someone may do in the future or something like that, you know, even if it's not an LED sign, the rules still apply that you can't have blinking, you can't have all of that. So just like any other standard sign, just like this one, you know, it's really just a matter of someone being compliant and wanting to be held accountable because, you know, someone could put blinking LEDs or whatever the case may be in something like this, and some of it, it's just
Traditional signage typically static and it's not gonna change too often. The issue here is we have something that can be changed dynamically day to day, almost anything. We don't have anything, I don't think, on the books that really have any restrictions or anything with respect to.
So in the sign ordinance, what's the enforcement mechanism that you guys, because it is in the sign ordinance that it can't do that. So what's the enforcement mechanism that the city has on enforcing non-compliant signs?
It's a class, B misdemeanor that has to go through the court system.
Yeah, I mean, the ordinance is the city's.
It would be a
I mean,
code
that's not guidelines, that's actual, you know.
So if someone does go rogue, they're facing a misdemeanor charge for doing that.
I guess from what I'm reading in the side notes that was up there a minute ago, it looks like most of the language was there. It's the enforcement that would be needed. In other words, this is the flashing, that type of thing.
Yeah, it's up there now,
Okay,
signs
yeah.
which flash, blink, or off, or like
And again, that's,
otherwise in motion.
That's the city sign.
yeah, that's the city sign ordinance. The issue there is how many flashes can you have a minute? How many, what's blinking, you know, and you get the definition. So I think, what I think from my perspective, I don't know what the capabilities of an LED sign is, sorry. I know my LED lights in my car just blind everybody, so. But, what I'd like to do is maybe sit down with somebody who's knowledgeable about signs and say, okay, this is what it can do, this is what it can't do.
Sure.
And let's put some limits on it so we can address those issues up there and put some parameters around it so you can get your sign and we can move forward. How's that sound? Does that make sense?
especially to understand the intensity at night, you know, what would that be?
Because we've got the wording right there. I mean,
The wording helps us, it just like you said, it doesn't specify kind of really where that would go.
That's not something that could be put in the stipulations
Yes.
for the.
Once we understand it, then that would be put into the motion, and if that's approved, then that's what, you know, the American Legion would have to follow, not only they'd have to follow the ordinance, but they'd also have to follow the restrictions of the COA.
Because the capabilities of it is, you know, to basically work like a full color display. So, I mean, it's capable of basically working just like pretty much a television. That's the capability. Now, the only difference is it's, you know, has outdoor LED diodes in order to do it. But, so that's the capability, but the majority of them used, have to, you know, they're in areas that have restrictions. So for example, like, we did actually the same sign system, for the newer now, elementary school in downtown Jeff, Franklin Square Elementary. That's surrounded by a historic district, residential, you know, it's probably, it's more dense than what's around what they are. And so that one is set up, you know, static images, it has a certain brightness that's set on them. So when you're asking about the capabilities, the way we do that is, the way that everything's controlled on that sign is it's a cloud-based system, so there's a secure login through a website that they have. It's just like building a PowerPoint. And so, you know, you put the text, you put the background, an image, whatever the case may be. Now, is it capable of animation, video? It is capable of it, but that just requires someone putting that on there. But there's also settings on there, where the settings, you can set the brightness, you can set an auto brightness range, and you can also, when you build basically, for lack of a better word, your PowerPoint slide, you put timing on there, and you can also schedule it. So like if it ends up being something where in the stipulations, you guys say, okay, at a certain time, that sign needs to go dark, then they can have it set up and we can make sure that when we hand it over to them, get them all set up initially, we can kind of schedule it that way, where it has, you know, it's scheduled. So this slide, is going off at this time and then restarts at this time.
Right.
And so, but it's all done just within that system. So, it's something that, you know, can easily be set up. And, you know, if someone were to go rogue and want to place a misdemeanor, it's also something that can easily change quickly.
So that the choices on the messages and so forth that'll be displayed on that sign, those will be changed by someone, with somebody at the Madison, and in-house.
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
But it'd be limited to, we have an officer board, and it would be limited to a handful of the officers that could do it.
And they'll be obviously aware of the rules and regulations we have regarding signage.
What I would propose to do, because I don't want to see the post get cited, nor me or anybody else,
Right.
is whatever we can work out with regard to restrictions and limitations, is I would put that in a standard operating procedure and sign it out within the post. This is how we're running the sign.
I see.
I mean, that's my intent. I mean, because I knew going into this, talking with Adam and talking with Brooke, that the sign has capabilities that I know go beyond the city ordinance. And so I wasn't really thinking too much along the lines of getting cited. I hadn't thought that far down the road. But nonetheless, I want to make sure that whether I'm the one programming the sign or one of my other officers are programming the sign, that we know what the restrictions are, because the capability of the sign is far more than what we want to use it as, or that we're permitted to use it as. So my intent all along was to write a standard operating procedure and have that set for the sign.
I see.
It sounds like it may be beneficial for both the board and the Legion to extend the application with their agreement and maybe create a
there any way that we could get, I kind of see two components to this. If we could get the capability and functionality of the sign, all of it, so we can see what it can do, what it can't do, then it might help us to be able to work with you to put together an, standard operating procedure for each one of those, like in intensity of the light, or when the light goes dark, and colors that can be used, and, but without having, at least for me, without having a document knowing what your sign would do, it's going to be hard for me to put some directions around that, or standard operating procedures for the American Legion.
Sure. We can sound like if Tom and Mike come to a great subcommittee.
Yep.
And we'll have that ready for next
Well,
meeting.
thank you, Devin.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you,
I moved to Devon to be on the committee.
are you okay with, putting the application on hold for another month so that, you can meet with a couple members of this board and go through this?
I'd be lying if I said I was disappointed, but,
Yeah, I know.
because we've been working on this sign for close to 2 months now. Yes, I would be more than willing to do it. Yeah.
I just think it will help the case, and help the board to better understand what they are approving. Plus, for you to get an SOP done, the specifics really need to be there, and it needs to be spelled out black and white, so there's no misinterpretation down the road from anybody, right? So, I think that would be
As
helpful.
far as capabilities go, if I know the specific items that you're interested in on that, I can get you that.
Well, even if you could attend a meeting with the two board members and whoever the Legion wants to have there, it could be more than yourself. But it may be helpful that you're there too. And even if you have a little demonstration of the sign, it could probably all be helpful. So we just understand everything and all the dynamics around it. Yeah, sure. Okay. Are you good with that if we delayed it a month? I know you're not good with it, but are you
I was gonna
okay?
say, that's a loaded question.
Are you okay?
I can live with it.
Are you okay with it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so with that, I'll make the motion to delay this application until the next meeting.
I'll second.
And
Huh?
we'll also be going to the subcommittee.
Approve the motion. Is that all right?
Mike Pittman,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approved.
Tom Stark,
Approved.
Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
and Josh Wilbur.
Approved. So for the subcommittee on this, Tom and Mike, do you guys accept that assignment?
As long as the meeting's in Florida, I'm okay with it.
I'll definitely attend that.
There's somewhere around here we can call Florida, I think. So,
I like to have somebody from the city on there too, so that.
Our staff is there.
Yeah, one of the staff members definitely be
We
there.
don't
And
have
then
to be appointed.
Brooke will communicate with you on a date, and then of course the Legion as well, to make sure everybody's in concert before our next meeting. All right, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for the information too.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, on to our next application at 111 East 2nd Street. Hello, if you could state your name and address for us.
Matt Chandler, and my current address or this address?
Your current address.
Okay, 15874 Poling Road, Florence, Indiana.
All right. Brooke, you want to take us through?
This property, owned by Matt and Daniel Chandler, is a circa 1854 federal zoned central business district. Their COA request is to replace the current overhead garage door opening with doors and 2 side windows, to install a 12 by 4 wood and metal awning with a hotel name signage printed on the front, and to add 2 rear egress doors on the east side of the building. Staff COA issued in January, it was to replace the door to the right of the entrance with an aluminum clad 6/6 window to restore the original historic appearance. We did use photographical evidence to support that COA decision. And then also to replace the door to the left of the entrance with a new aluminum clad door of similar design. And then we'll go through the photographs. You can see this is historically what the building looked like.
Could you go back for just a second, Brooke?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
You can see the renderings on the left and right with the floor plans included. This is an inspiration or idea of the awning, how it would look, something similar. Photograph of that eastern side facing the alley. You can see all of the infilled windows and whatnot, but this is the area where they're wanting to add some doors. And that is all I have.
So on this particular picture, go back, Brooke.
Okay, sorry.
Is the plan then to restore all of those window openings with actual windows?
Correct.
Okay, and then the emergency doors, I'm guessing they are? What part of that picture, where will they actually be installed? At the two-story portion or the one-story portion?
On the one-story portion, if you flip back over to the plan, it's kind of hard to see there, but you can see the.
You can go up there if you like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So these are the two doors that we're referencing.
Okay. What is that, like a second,
back.
a staircase exit to get
Yeah,
out?
so this is the emergency exit here, and
Uh-huh.
then the door to the right would be to a personal garage, which
Okay.
it's currently there. That door is currently there.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Thank you, yeah.
And I'm guessing also, on the, east side of the front, where the door currently is, then you're going to use old brick to break that back up and with a lintel and, okay.
And then currently, there's a door here, but we're restoring that to what it previously was in that 1930s lemon photo to an original window.
Yeah, and that's what I was
Okay.
referring to.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
Do you have anything else to add to the application for us to consider?
I don't think so. You know, I do have that inspiration shot with the awning. That was kind of an interesting component. We're kind of, I don't have the exact materials. That would be some type of fabricated design, composite of like metal and wood. But that's not a for sure. That's just kind of ideology as of right now. We definitely want it to be, I guess, more of a permanent fixture than like it wouldn't be a fabric awning.
Yeah.
Now, when you say awning, are you talking about the part that says Hotel Barclay on it, or are you talking about the Greek revival stuff above that?
No, just where it says the hotel piece, the hotel portion.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's kind of comes out.
Right.
And if you look at the shots kind of cohesively, because you have that transium there, and then we have like where we're putting the doors, it all kind of plays together. If you can kind of piece the photos together. It's a little hard because you can see there's a transium component on the top there, and the current way that the building currently is with the garage where it has that garage door opening. So I don't want to confuse.
So the two middle doors actually will be functional, and then the two on each side are just, they're permanent?
Yes.
Okay.
Side lights.
Side lights, yeah.
And the door over to the left, is that what's currently there?
Yes, there's currently a door there.
Okay.
But originally a window.
No, it's currently, was it originally a window?
No, it was
it's
a
always a
door,
door.
and that was the staff COA, because I did do a site visit, and the door that's there was severely deteriorated.
Yeah.
So there was a staff COA issue to change that door.
But the COA here is not, we're not referencing that door whatsoever in the garage part.
No, it's only where the overhead garage door is currently, which in this picture would be the set of French doors with side lights. Not saying French doors, excuse me, but double doors with side lights.
In the material you're gonna use for the doors?
Aluminum clad or wood.
Brooke?
Well, aluminum clad wood.
Wood. Or wood.
Or wood.
Yeah.
He's either gonna do aluminum clad doors.
Aluminum clad wood or 100% wood?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, pretty much.
Stick with aluminum clad.
Yeah. He's the contractor, so.
Aluminum clad, and we don't actually know what's under that aluminum.
He looks a little bit shady.
Just for clarity on that awning too, it's, that's, you know, this is a small hotel, so that's going to be the entrance to the lobby space, so.
Hey,
we're
Brian,
raising
can you
for
come
the-
up here so we make sure it gets on?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Thanks.
You know the rules.
He just when he was comfortable.
Brian Martin, 104 Steering Street. Just clarity on the awning is, you know, that's the entrance to the hotel space. So the reason for the awning, of course, is a little cover, a little protection at the front door. And then, of course, the functioning doors are the way in and out. So.
Brooke, was a COA approved already for the east side of those windows? Because the application says just for the front 6.
No, not at this point. It was not, I don't even believe it, no, it was not included in the application. What we had discussed is that when they get to that point, I believe, that we were gonna infill the windows, correct? Or, I apologize, let me take a look at that.
But I was thinking it was discussed to put windows back in the existing openings.
Yes, correct.
So we
Not
should
check-
then go ahead and make sure that that's part of the
That would be
motion
good,
tonight.
yes.
Yep.
So how many windows is that total? 6 and what? On the side?
What a few.
I think there's 15 on the side, if I'm, that's accurate, what is it, I can't see it from here.
So in other words, you're gonna, any space that was a window, you're gonna put a window back in.
Correct, they're
Okay.
currently all just blocked.
Those windows aluminum clad or wood?
It would be the traditional window you guys see, which is a wood window that's clad, aluminum clad on the exterior.
Okay.
A wood interior clad exterior.
We're gonna get it out of you one way or another, Brian. Okay.
What?
But we don't have, windows are not on this.
The front
They-
6 are.
They are?
Yeah. They want to add them.
They want to add that.
Yes.
Okay.
It actually was in the project brief for replacing the doors and 2 side windows, and then, so
Oh, we got 6
that was,
front
that was it,
windows.
yeah.
I believe I counted 14
Yeah,
on that
14 on the
east
side is what I can. Any other questions from the board? Questions, concerns from the audience? All right, hearing none. Jerome, do you want to take us through findings of fact?
Sure.
Remember, we're adding windows to this too, Jerome.
Doors and, we're adding windows.
Yes.
I'll just stick that up there. I'm just gonna try to read off most of this from this procedure, and let's see if we can try to read that. Okay, the Madison Historic Review Guidelines, doors and entrances, page 40 to 42. Doors are often an important visual element to a storefront. Historic entrances and doors should be retained, maintained, and if needed, repaired. Missing or severely deteriorated doors, such as in your case, should be replaced with historically appropriate doors. Screens, storm, and security doors should not detract from the historic appearance of the building. Primary entrances to commercial buildings should be accessible to meet ADA requirements. It's not possible, alternative entrance should be available, and maintain the same standards as primary entrance. Owners are encouraged to replace missing and severely damaged, unserviceable historic doors with new doors that replicate the original or other historic examples. Clear glass, single light, or multi-light painted wood doors are usually appropriate for replacing missing original primary doors in the district's commercial building. The opening and the secondary entrances may be smaller, or doors may be solid wood, darker bronze, anodized metal, though less appropriate may be substituted for wood. Okay, now.
And then I have the Windows guidelines, let me.
But
bring those.
do you believe, though, do you believe that he's following those?
I believe he's in conformance with all of
Okay.
these guidelines, yes, I do.
Okay. And then she'll get the windows.
so you can.
Can I ask one more question? Okay. Brooke,
Yes,
were the existing windows in the front, were they badly deteriorated?
They were covered up.
they were covered, with,
No, the ones in the front, not the ones on the.
There's only one window in the front, the rest of them are all covered up with plywood.
No, in the front there's 6, right?
No.
6 windows?
They're all covered with wood.
Oh,
What he's
okay.
saying is they're not there.
Gotcha.
Plywood maybe worse than good.
So, they are gone,
Yeah,
they're
Is that
not.
what you mean by
I didn't know if they were
windows?
behind.
Yeah.
Right, that's the question,
Or
Tom.
not.
Yeah.
yeah.
You take down
Go
that
with the
wood,
guidelines.
I'll
there's
continue
nothing
on
there.
here.
Is that correct?
If everybody's ready.
Sorry.
If you take down that wood, there are no windows behind
Correct.
it. Okay, okay.
And it's page 56, just so you know.
Okay, so we're gonna continue on page 56, windows. Many of the commercial buildings in Madison retain original wood sash windows. On the upper floors, original windows should be preserved, maintained, and repaired. Windows should not be concealed, enclosed, or covered. If replacements are necessary, they should match the original size, material, and number of arranged. Historic windows should be retained and maintained. Can I just say that? Historic windows should not be covered or painted. Deteriorated or damaged windows should be repainted so that windows retain their historic appearance. Using in-kind material, epoxy, and so on. Replacing missing panes or sashes rather than entire windows. Yeah, 80% of the windows damaged and or missing and must be replaced. Use designs and replicate the missing historic windows or other historic examples that appear to be appropriate to the building being worked on based on physical evidence. The windows in these historic buildings are.
Oh, that's just a caption for photos,
Okay.
but here's the,
Okay, replacement windows should be of wood to match original. Historic shutters should be retained and maintained. Shutters should be added over the building, add them. Replacement replica historic shutters fit the windows openings when closed and are constructed of painted wood. Screens and storm windows.
I'll try to get
Okay,
that a
that's
little bit
actually
bigger
better
for you.
for me.
That's what I'm,
Screens and storm windows should be constructed of painted wood, baked on enamel, anodized aluminum, or painted to match the frame mill finish aluminum. To match frame mill finishing. Screens and storm windows should fit within the window frame. Storm windows should be full view design, or have a central meeting rail that overlaps that of the window. The use of full view interior windows is also appropriate.
and I believe, yep, that's it.
That's it.
Do we need to go over awnings? For commercial?
Yes.
Can I have one more
It's actually
question?
signs, so it would be,
What is that?
well, yeah, but it's a,
It's
okay,
in-
so I'll do awnings and then signs.
Are we gonna add awnings?
Well, the front structure.
It's in
Yeah,
there.
the awning I could not, because our guidelines
That's what he's
say
asking.
it cannot be, it has to be made of fabric or something else, it says not wood.
The hotel sign.
Yes, correct. I can do that, but the awnings,
But the only reason why I ask is in the project brief, it's installing a 12 by 4 foot wood and metal awning with hotel name signage printed in front, right? So that is in your original project brief, so if we don't look at that, then we're not
yeah.
gonna be considering the entire.
Okay, awnings.
We only, well, yeah.
What page, Brooke?
Sorry, it is 34.
Page 34, commercial guidelines. In addition of awnings to commercial buildings,
I can try to make it bigger, I'll have to scroll
I-
side to
maybe
side.
if I
Want me
stood
to
up,
do
I
that?
could probably read it. Okay,
Alright,
that's
you
what
want me to
we're-
read it?
The
Tom,
addition,
something?
addition of awnings to commercial buildings is appropriate if there are any traditional design, materials, and placement. Awning colors should be compatible with the complementary and compatible to the building. Avoid harsh or over bright colors. Awnings should be installed below the cornice or transom. Storefronts and upper facade windows are both appropriate locations for awnings. Awnings may be retractable or fixed in place and should fit the opening to which they are applied. Shed awnings are appropriate for rectangular openings, while arched awnings are appropriate for arched openings. Shed awnings are most appropriate for commercial buildings in Madison. The use of bubble or concave or convex forms are not recommended. Internally lit awnings are also less appropriate. Transform lights of prism glass or stained glass should not be covered by permanent fixed awnings. Awnings should be of canvas, duck, or cotton polyester blend. Vinyl is not appropriate. Metal, wood, or plastic awnings are not appropriate and should not be added to the storefront of historic buildings. Installation of awning hardware should not damage historic material and features of the building. Okay, now for signs, what page?
48.
Okay, signs, page 48 of our commercial guidelines. Historic signs, including neon signs where possible, should be preserved, maintained, and or repaired.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. New signs should be of traditional materials such as wood, glass, copper, bronze letters. Sandblasted wood signs are appropriate. Plastic substrate or unfinished wood signs are not recommended. Signs should be sized in proportion to the building, avoiding oversized size. Buildings should not have more than 3 signs, not counting the sign painted on the window. Signs that resemble logos or symbols of businesses are encouraged. Signs should have no more than 2 or 3 colors. Colors should be coordinated with overall building colors. Sans serif, or script lettering are traditional styles for signs. Letters should not exceed 18 inches in height or cover more than 60% of the total sign area. Additional sign locations include storefront, belt courses, upper facade, walls not to exceed 20% of the overall wall surface, hanging or mounting inside windows, or projecting from the face of a building. Movable sandwich boards or menu easels are also allowable downtown. They should be placed on the sidewalk from the business. On 1 foot from the curb during business hours, and should not exceed the total size of 42 by 24 height unit. Temporary signs such as banners, window graphics should be displayed no more than 30 days. It should not exceed the square feet of the size and contain no more than 5 square feet of text. Signs should be installed in such a way that no damage occurs to historic materials. Mounting brackets and hardware for signs should be anchored into mortar, not masonry. Lighting for signs should be concealed, spot up, or uplit lighting is appropriate for signs. Internally lit signs are not appropriate for downtown areas.
So before he goes forward, there's a couple things that we didn't have on our worksheet.
with this, with awnings being one, signage not being another, windows where it wasn't on there. Is that all, you are definitely wanting approval for all of that?
Yes.
Okay, so I do wanna make sure you understand that, you know, signage and your awnings, you really don't have much of a design for, you've got a thought process for it, so I just wanna make sure you understand that. And if we consider it tonight and that part gets denied, then you'd have to apply again in the future.
Right.
If you don't do that tonight, and you wanna delay those components till later, till you have something more for us to look at, then you would not have to reapply. We could look at that at a later time. So I'm just giving you a heads up, because not knowing what we're approving doesn't usually go over well with the board, so I'm just giving you some guidance. So you let me know what you wanna do with those couple of components. I think the windows we understand, doors and entrances we understand, the other two, not so much, but.
I have one question on the
Yeah.
windows. There is millwork above the original windows in that early picture. Are you gonna put millwork above the door and the two lower windows on the first floor?
You're talking about the
Yeah.
woodwork right
Yeah.
above.
The woodwork above
Millwork,
the
yeah,
windows.
The half circle or the crescent wood part,
Above the large?
Above the large entrance?
the arch.
Oh, I'm playing like a transient glass.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what about above the windows and doors?
He's talking about the actual windows.
Windows and doors.
All the windows have a wood,
And millwork above them.
basically structure above them. You see that?
I mean, it was probably a metal construction, cornice.
Metal,
Window, but-
yeah.
You plan on doing that?
I mean, that could be, I don't think you have the plans now, I mean, I guess that would be an addition later if, of course, they look great, but they're not there, so.
Yeah, they're no longer there. I don't think we were planning on restoring that
Okay.
piece.
Not trying to complicate your life.
Brian, what about the muntins? On the windows, the muntins,
2/2
Over two.
are
panes.
they
That,
Is that in the plan for?
yeah, that's what,
2/2 with internal, what kind of muntins? I know that, are they the fake ones
well,
that are just like?
ideally an SDL, which is in, out, and, inside, outside, and inside the glass.
I need
It's
you
the
to move
most.
the podium. Thank you.
Sorry. They call it an SDL, which is inside the structure, outside the structure, and internally in the glass. It's the most authentic you can get with a modern window.
Okay.
But the lights are not, each of the 4 lights,
It's not individually glazed,
not individually
Yeah,
glazed.
yeah.
Okay. I see.
but it's a much more authentic look than any of them that are, I mean, I know there've been some that are, that are just inside the glass, which doesn't have any of that profile.
Yeah.
Right.
No shadow line there, so.
So it's exterior, interior, and in between,
Mhm.
double glazing. Got it, thank you.
All right, so we have findings of fact that has been stated. Tom, do you agree that the proposal on the table, it meets all the findings of fact?
With the exception of all the components that we didn't know about tonight?
Talking about the
Or-
awnings and signage?
Right.
Did we get the drawing of the awning?
Okay, so we have the inspiration photo here. And then if we go back to the plans,
Zoom in at the corner.
Do we have a size on
We
the
don't have a
sign?
should be
awning.
12 by
On the
4.
awning?
We do. I had that in my application.
Yeah.
Awning
It's in the
piece.
application.
But I'm talking about the signage, the lettering.
Oh, what the
We don't have
lettering is?
that.
Yeah,
Oh, the name of the hotel.
yeah.
Oh,
It'll be the name of the hotel, but the size of that lettering, what is the size of the lettering?
we did talk about that. You gave me those specifications.
It
So
could
the
go up to what?
ordinance is 18
18
inches, I
inches,
believe.
yeah.
I'll
Okay.
I'll go
So it's
back
gonna
and
fall
double
within
check.
the ordinance,
Yeah.
is basically what you're looking at. Okay, well, that helps.
Yeah.
I just read it.
But it sounds like we're not for sure on the material of this awning, right?
He's no, he, in
He's-
his application, he's got wood and metal.
Yeah. Which is not appropriate.
Just, but that's what he's asking for, wood and metal.
Well, that looks like a canvas awning to me.
Which is not allowed.
we can't, yeah, that's what he's
I
asking.
think I heard you say you weren't really interested in a canvas awning.
Not a
correct?
canvas awning,
Yeah,
no.
so that's.
That was just like what he had in the rendering, like he just plugged that in, but that's not what we would not.
Yeah. So yes.
So I guess it does happen, so I guess, okay, so,
Yeah.
so there you go. So that's, so do you, now, knowing that, what do you think about the signage and awning?
So the signage is 12 feet wide by 4 feet in depth, is that correct?
That's the metal awning,
Right.
and then the signage itself goes on.
And I believe we've agreed to that it has to be no taller than 18 inches.
Correct.
Okay. So we can work that in.
And are you okay with the metal and
Metal
the wood and metal awning? Are you good with that?
I mean, it would be nice to see a design, you know, to have that. I mean, I'm guessing this is very similar to what's on the
Can you go back to his?
south side of Mad Paddle
the
over, you
Well,
know,
that's
they've
the
got the
inspiration,
metal
his-
coming down,
His design.
and that's classy. But again, it would be nice if,
So that's, what he's talking about would be wood and metal, is that covering, coming out?
so it's got a slight slant and then down, is that correct?
So he tried to put that like in, and he didn't have, I guess, like the imagery to manipulate it, but the image that we have is almost identical as what we're asking for. The actual inspiration image is
So
basically.
it's just gonna be a flat.
So
Yeah.
flat top, okay,
It'd be a metal clad
yeah,
frame.
yeah. I'm okay with
awning
that.
slash sign.
Oh, and-
We've read through lots of guidelines here, but my memory is, correct me, please if I'm wrong, is that those materials are not allowed for awnings. Wood and metal, it specifically says,
Well, but now it's, you know, that's what you get to decide, you know, do you agree that it's within the guidelines or not?
if my memory is correct, that it's not within the guidelines, those materials are not permitted in an awning, but to me, I don't know why you would necessarily call that an awning.
Well, I think I kind of call it like a marquee, but
Yeah.
I don't.
That's a
Kind of
sign.
part of your sign,
Yeah.
but it does come out and it's a cover.
Yeah. So a
It's a cover,
Yeah.
right? He wants it to be a covering for when guests come, they have a, you know, way to get out of the rain, right?
Right.
And that's a part of the structure, basically. But
So
it is,
it is a functional awning.
it's a
I
function.
see, I see.
It's not just for decoration, from what I understand, right, Brian?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's not any, I guess, too different than, some small, doorway coverings that have been approved over the years, as far as, you basically get a little coverage over the front door, same
Right.
concept.
Right, okay.
And
So I
then
guess-
the purpose of the metal and the wood is simply to create, I mean, this is I think this is kind of an iconic look. I mean, you go to any, you know, large city, you know, watch some old, TV shows, you know, movies. I mean, this is a very iconic look in that setting. So to achieve that with the metal and wood is really the only way you can do it as opposed to canvas, so.
Okay, I guess then my take on this is that while this may be technically an awning, I don't think the authors of the guidelines were thinking of something like this when they used the word awning. Therefore, I think this falls within the guidelines as they're reasonable to accept this as being
What about-
consistent with guidelines.
What about the rest of the?
Yes, I agree with everything else Tom said, go with that, yeah.
Mike?
I agree with everything, and change the awning to big door millwork. How's that, Brian?
Sound good. Shoot. I agree, and I agree with what, you know, Tom and Owen really stated on that. You know, it's a lot different than what we normally get as an awning type application. And also making sure that the letters do fall within the guidelines you're working with the staff is gonna be important for me as well, because we do not want that to get out of hand on that part of it. But being that it's a hotel, hotels always have this. We approved something, you know, for the cotton mill to have a covering for guests as they kind of come through there. So, you know, that was something, you know, a little different too. So this actually is more, you know, kind of easy, more even a historic looking building. So, all right. So with that, we'll accept a motion on this one. And good luck to who does it.
Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Matt and Daniel Chandler. Okay, and here we go. For replacing of 6 front windows and 14 on the east side with aluminum clad wood windows, replacement of overhead door with doors and side lights. Door to the right of the overhead door will be replaced with aluminum clad window, and the bottom portion will be bricked up to match the other window on the first floor, correct? Yeah. Door to the left will be replaced with a, the door to the left. I don't know where I was going with that. Okay, then we will have a 12-foot by 4-foot fabricated awning / sign / marquee with the name of the hotel, and that will be fabricated out of wood and metal, with the signage to be no taller than 18 inches tall, and 2 new glass doors on the east side of the building towards the rear. Does that cover it all?
The doors are glass on the east side.
The east side, I don't know about the glass piece.
Are they glass and metal or just metal?
They're just metal, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, go ahead and put glass and metal in, and if they, it's, I mean, the glass is simply be for a visual.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's, they're, technically, they're an egress door for, you know, for safety reasons, so.
Yeah.
If you can put glass and wood in, I mean, glass and metal in for now, and then if it just goes solid, is that acceptable?
sound right?
That's fine.
Can you, would you be willing to add that the signage fall within the signage ordinance?
Yeah.
And then also, the doors, what type of material are they for the front that we were talking about?
Are you making amendments to his?
I'm
motion?
asking him if he would. I'm asking.
Well,
I'm
I
just
think-
asking, what, because you didn't say what type of material the doors
Well,
were,
I-
you said adding doors.
Oh, okay, the glass panes,
The
the
glass.
front doors and the side lights look like they were multi-pane.
Right, the two, so
The
you have the
entrance.
2 side lights, which was glass, and then
Yeah.
the doors themselves.
Can you go back to the rendition of the way the front will look? So what do we have? Do you want me to count the number of panes or?
No, I just, the material,
Painted
just,
wood.
are they wood doors? Or
Wood or aluminum clad wood?
We're leaning towards more wood doors.
Okay.
Okay, so wood doors, that's all I wanna make sure of, 'cause, so I'm just asking if you would make that amendment. If you don't want to, then that's up to you.
No, I'm fine. And the signage, what was the comment on the signage?
Just to follow the city ordinance.
Oh, city ordinance, okay. And I would like to make an amendment that we follow the city ordinance on the front signage of the hotel, and that the wood doors and the side lights for the entrance of the hotel will be constructed of wood and glass.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Brooke?
Mike Piven,
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Approved.
Tom Stark,
Approved?
Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
and Josh Wilbur.
Approved. All right, so you will get your COA in the mail, and you can begin construction as soon as you also have the proper building permits. And it's good to go. Thank you
Yeah,
so much
thank
for
you.
taking this project. Looks
Thank you.
awesome. So
We're really excited, appreciate it.
We are too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. All right. I don't think we have any time for any more than that, do we? I'm just-
I think you extend this.
Oh,
We need a bathroom break or? I'm okay with that.
All right, our next application is 422 St. Michael's Avenue.
Kurt Crafton, 3895 West State Road 56, Hanover.
Van Crafton, 304 Broadway Street, Madison.
All right.
The circa 1854 Federal is zoned Historic District Residential and owned by the Crafton Brothers, Van and Trevor. COA request is to add 6 total windows, a shotgun back to addition to keep full 2-story home on the east side, replace and rebuild east side open porch, replace 2 eastern windows with sliding glass doors, add one window on eastern second story, build additional second story on west side, adding 2 windows, replace garage doors with electric doors. You can see prior COA approval in January of 2022 to replace 3 windows in the north side of the home and existing windows on the east side of the home with wood or aluminum clad of same shape, size, and design. Replace standing seam roof with shingle roof to restore historic appearance as shown on 1897 Sanborn map. And then, just so that it's mentioned, items that fell under repair, replace, or non-reviewable portions were paint, replacing aluminum gutters with new of same material, shape, and design, restoration of windows, if possible, tuck pointing and landscaping. And then these are images, drawings that they have submitted showing the changes. So you can see the new bird's eye view of the roof line. Floor plan. Second floor plan. And these are some of the photos of the exterior that they have provided. And then some of the interior. This photo, I apologize, I tried to lighten it, guys. It was so dark, but it's an interior photo of a bathroom. This is the Sanborn map showing what the house looks like, and I will zoom in on that. Showing the house and the additions. And that is all I have.
Lee and Trevor, you guys got anything to add?
All the windows that are there right now, we're just going to do some woodwork on the outside and the inside before we paint them. We're going to keep them. We're not going to mess with the windows, especially in the front. The front door is wooden. We're going to keep it. We'll just have pretty much the front facade. We're not going to change other than some tuck pointing and some paint. The side porch, there's some boards that you can fall through. We're going to replace those, but we'll keep it as is, and we'll go all shingle roof. The 6 windows that we're adding on the new addition is aluminum clad with the wood side on the interior, just like Brian and them were talking about. The side door is a wood door. We're going to bring it back to life, sand it, stain it, have to build the frame around it. The setbacks are the same. We're just going to go, instead of a camelback, we're just going to go shotgun, and it's pretty dilapidated. And we got approval from Pace with contingent on this one.
Where's your addition?
Huh?
Show me the addition. What's going to be new that you're going to construct?
So right here, I mean, I hear this guy. So
no, that's why I'm confused.
Yeah, here's the hole. This is where it is now.
Okay.
Like this. This whole section is falling in. So we are going, when we tear this off, we're not going to touch the brick except for tuck pointing. And then once we add this on with the existing footprint, we're just going to go up and up, creating a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath.
And that's the back of the house.
Correct. Yeah, this is St. Michael's.
Okay.
This won't change other than paint and tuck pointing.
Okay.
And then obviously the roof.
And is the porch that you're going to rebuild, and is that on the south side of the house then?
It's on the east. Yeah, it's on the east side. Hang on.
East side.
No.
So it's on the alley
No,
side?
It is on the south side.
Okay.
It's on the south side.
South side, pardon me.
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay.
If it helps, I'll bring up the, Sanborn map, because really the
That was
footprint
it. Yeah.
of the house has not changed much, so you can see at this time, it was, that rear elongated portion, the pink, and the yellow, pink denoting masonry, yellow denoting a wood frame structure, but that those are all one story on that rear. So,
You're going up a story.
what they're talking about is adding a second story addition as well.
Yeah, and the
Right.
second story won't be any taller than the front.
It'll be less.
Maybe less. So
Yes, it'll be less, it'll be pitched, definitely, yeah.
And I think you started to mention you got a PACE grant to do what?
The dilapidated structures, so on the back that you're seeing in the yellow right there and actually on into the pink, that is fallen down, kind of all jabberwocky. So that'll be taken down, the existing footprint that's there will be built back, so nothing additional, out or in, everything will be built back where it was and then vertical.
So you got the PACE for the demolition then?
Contingent on your all's approval of our plans.
Gotcha, okay.
And then Nicole and Van walked through the property. And the pink part, you can see it in some of the pictures, but this is pretty solid. This really is. This is nice. This, it just progressively gets worse to where this is literally into the dirt. And we're gonna have to replace floor joists, and then there's a ton of water damage in this area. So when we have to remove the ceiling and the truss, we're gonna go, we like to go north.
Even in the front too, through the roof.
So the demo was already approved by the city?
No, that's the part, they'll need contingent on you all, to demo and rebuild, that's what they're asking for today.
Okay.
I didn't see.
I misunderstood, thank you for
So the pink,
clarifying.
the pink at the rear is brick today,
Correct.
but it is one story.
Correct.
So you're gonna add on a second story of brick.
No.
No, we're gonna go LP Smart Siding north.
Okay.
Yep, and this.
Will be 2 stories of
Correct.
frame.
Yes.
How much of that back pink section did you say, the brick part, was falling in and you'll have to demo it? Is it like half of that?
No,
That's a
I
yellow
don't think
chunk.
we'll touch any of the brick. We'll just
Oh,
duct tape.
okay.
I think the brick is
Yeah, the brick.
It's
Brick.
The brick.
The old wood structure.
So it's just
Yeah.
the yellow portion then that will have to come down?
Yes, there are floor joists underneath here,
Mhm.
and we will have, and we will have to replace those.
Okay.
But all this will be brand new. We'll just tear that down, because this is dirt in there.
And again, just to be clear, the windows, the muntins on the windows.
The what?
Muntins.
I don't know what that is.
It's the thing that divides the panes and
So
like.
it's a 1/1.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but there is a window, and there is a 2/2. But you can't see it from the road, you can't see it,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But it is a 2/2, and I think that's the only one.
So
The
everything
addition
else
that will be, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
everything else is 1/1.
Yeah, no. This right here, there are 2 windows right here on the wooden structure. It's like a,
I think there was
like a 6/6 or a 12/12 or.
Yeah.
But you're demolishing it.
But what I was gonna tell you guys, because we've done it on 415 and we didn't do it on Walnut, because there was nothing there. We will take those out, and if someone wants them, we'd love to get them, And they're not in the greatest shape, but.
And is that east side visible from any public thoroughfare?
It is not. It's hidden from the garage that's behind that.
I don't think it is.
Mr. Campbell has to look at it, and
Any other questions from the board?
I've got one, what's that stovepipe going up the side of the house? Am I looking at the right house?
we're gonna remove that.
I figured you would.
Yeah.
I don't remember something in the house or not.
It's interesting, I got, so this,
Yeah, just show them. You guys know what he's talking about. So it's going up the house, is what he's asking.
Chimney behind
It's
it.
cold air return.
yes,
We'll save that for you, Mike, if you want that.
I don't want
Okay.
that.
Sure, I saw that, yeah.
where they brought up the
Potbelly stove.
Yeah. So you're keeping the chimney
Bigger
and
than
everything
everything.
is actually there.
The
Right.
chimney on the
upstairs, yes.
northern elevation, are you keeping that chimney then?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Just that aluminum pipe's gonna be there.
That was a nice raccoon.
Those are nice. I don't think that's probably.
The bathroom.
So the pipe's not
That- That's, I'll show you. And you walk in there and it's
Fancy.
yeah.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions, comments from the audience? Mark, you sure, because you're pulling once. All right, so Tom, you want to take us through findings of that?
Sure.
Please.
Okay, so doors and entrances. Doors are often building central visual elements and are particularly important features. Historic entrances and doors should be retained and maintained, and if needed, repaired. And missing or severely deteriorated doors should be replaced with historically appropriate replacements. Screen, storm, and security doors should not detract from the historic appearance of the building. And by the way, these are on residential guidelines, pages 39 through 42. Replacement doors should be painted, paneled wood, or with or without single or multiple clear glass openings. Windows are prominent building components. Historic windows should be retained, maintained, and if needed, repaired. Original windows should be preserved in their original size, location, and design with their original materials and number of panes. Windows should not be added on the primary facade of the structure. Porches, pages 59 through 50, they're one of the most defining characteristics of historic houses. In most cases, historic porches should be retained, maintained, and if needed, repaired. New porches should be consistent with the historic appearance of the building in which they are attached. In most cases, historic porches visible from the street should be retained and maintained. Porch details should be retained intact with repair work or replacement of missing parts such as columns, posts, railings, balusters, decorative molding, and trim work to match the original in design, material, scale, and placement. Original porches should not be removed. Porches on the rear and sides of dwellings may be enclosed when not visible from the street, and if height and shape of the porch roof is maintained. Porches and columns, railings on pages 51 and 52. Historic porch columns and railings should be retained and repaired with materials to match the original. If the original porch columns and railings are missing, replacement porch columns and railings should be appropriate for the dwelling's architectural style and period. Porch columns and railings should be preserved and maintained. If they need repair, use materials to match the original in dimensions and detailing. Columns often deteriorate at the bottom next to the porch. It is preferred that the deteriorated section is replaced rather than replacing the entire column. Porch columns are available in modern materials such as aluminum, wrought iron, and vinyl, but these are not appropriate for front porches. These types of columns are not preferred but acceptable for porches at the rear of the dwelling or for side porches that are not visible from the street. And from everything that we've heard, we did not talk about the balusters. Are they all there? Or do you have to replace some of them on the hand railing on your porch?
No, they're there.
Okay. I mean, we talked about all the, matching what's there, repairing what's there. You also said you would repair the front door. You're going to do the inside and exterior repair on the existing windows. The new windows will match. So I think everything that we discussed tonight on your project complies.
What about, so we either gotta do new construction and we need
Oh,
demolition too.
we did leave out that, didn't we?
We gotta do both those, demolition and new construction.
So do you want to do new construction first?
Yeah,
or
sure.
demo?
Well,
Okay.
It'll come next,
So, new constructions, additions on page 68 in the residential guidelines. In planning additions, the best approach is to site the additions where they will not be visible from the street or where they will have the least effect on the building's overall form and plan. The rear of the building is the best location for addition of rooms, wings, porches, or decks. Enlarging a property through adding additional stories is not appropriate except at the rear roof lines, which are not readily visible. Additions to historic homes should be located at the rear of the buildings and not in the front of the buildings where they are readily visible from the street. Additions should be secondary, smaller and simpler than the original building in scale and design and placement. Additions should be compatible design in keeping with the original building's design, roof shape, materials, color, and location of windows, doors, and cornice heights. Continued on page 68, the residential guidelines, additions should not imitate earlier historical style or architectural period. For example, if you have a Queen Anne Victorian era style rear porch, would not be appropriate for a colonial revival house or a federal house. The recommended approach is for additions to reflect the characteristics of the current period and design, but compatible with the original building. To avoid extensive removal and damage of the historic structure or loss of those materials, additions should keep the exterior walls intact as much as it can of the original building, using the existing door and window openings connecting the addition to the existing building.
And then I'm going to have to pull up.
She got 4 demolition.
I apologize, guys. I kept getting error messages when saving my PowerPoint, and it did not save the final version correctly. So I am getting the demos pulled up now. There.
Demolition, what page am I referring to?
Okay, this is
Page
80.
80 in the residential guidelines state that buildings are that contribute to the historic residential character of the historic district neighborhood are irreplaceable physical evidence of Madison's past. The loss of any building affects not only the individual building but the surrounding landscape. Demolition may be appropriate if the building does not contribute to the historic character of the district. Applicants for demolition should explore possibilities for selling or reusing historic materials, preferably on site, but also in other locations as alternatives to demolition. Applicants should consider mothballing the building, which involves developing a strategy for halting deterioration, protecting from vandalism, and stabilizing the building structurally until such time that proper rehabilitation or restoration may commence. Demolition may be appropriate if the denial of the demolition will result in demonstrable economic hardship on the owner. Moving a building from its historic location will be approved only if all other alternatives for preservation have been explored. Demolition by neglect occurs when a building is allowed to deteriorate through lack of maintenance. It is self-imposed hardship that will not be considered for mitigating circumstances when determining economic hardship. So, that's a lot, but I think, the only thing that stuck out to me was the new construction. And yes, you are going up a story higher, but it is in the rear of the building, and it is on the same footprint. So I personally don't have an issue with that. I have seen the back of that building, and there's really nothing to say back there, the part that you need to demolished. So I think you're in compliance with the guidelines.
Owen?
Well, I'm not sure if I can completely agree because I wanted to go through some of the stuff that Brooke has mentioned. She says that the door replacement is not in conformance because sliding glass doors are not appropriate on a historic home. I didn't hear about a sliding glass door.
Oh, that's right.
You have a sliding glass door somewhere?
Yeah, in the rear, master bedroom.
So where's that at on there?
So,
Can we go back to the picture, Brooke, I'm sorry? Or we can look at what he's,
So when I looked at that, it looked like
This
just a
is St.
single
Michael's?
door.
It'll be, the thought was to put a sliding glass door there, and then as I'm reading that, it said it's not appropriate if it can be seen from any roadway.
see this?
And you won't be able to see that from anywhere.
Well, then if you can't see it, then it's
Yeah.
not.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, so the sliding glass door is not visible from a public right of way.
Correct.
Okay, then that, I think, means that sliding glass door's okay. Okay, it's not in conformance with porches because historic porch materials will not be repaired or retained. Is that true? You're not going to repair and retain your historic porch materials?
Oh, absolutely we are.
yeah, it's wood, and there are planks that are busted. We're gonna replace them with wood.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's not a worry, all right.
And then there's a shingle roof on there, and we're just gonna shingle roof everything.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Cause that's what the sandboard map showed it anyway.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
We don't ever expect people to replace a standing seam roof, I think, because they're so dadgum expensive. It's not really reasonable to demand that. Okay, and, addition is not in conformance because it will involve potential removal of the historic rear chimney. Is there a historic rear chimney?
There's one on the north elevation, but you guys mentioned that you are going to retain that, right?
Correct.
And if it needs tuck pointing, will you tuck point it?
Correct, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess none of that applies, therefore I concur with Tom.
Mike,
I agree for the same reason.
Jerome,
I agree.
I too agree for all the same reasons, so we'll accept the motion. Somebody wants to,
Getting pedaling.
yeah, is tired. Okay.
I move. Based on the preceding findings of fact, I move that the Madison Historic District Board of Review grant a certificate of appropriateness to Van and Trevor Crafton for the proposed doors, new doors on the east and south. Okay. For them to add 6 total windows, shotgun rear to the addition to the rear, keep full 2-story home on the east side, replace and rebuild east side open porch, replace 2 eastern windows with sliding glass doors, and add 1 window on the eastern 2nd story. Build additional 2nd story on the west side, adding 2 windows. And we haven't talked, replace garage doors, electric
it's on
doors.
the backside, you can't see it, so, yeah.
Okay, replace the garage doors with electric doors, but
Yeah, I wouldn't,
that was never discussed.
it's up to you.
So I'll leave that out of my motion, since we didn't even talk about it.
Alright. Do we have a second?
I second.
Brooke? But this, you know what, let me, before you do that,
Okay.
I do want to, ask for an amendment, because they didn't have the demo.
Oh. Okay, I accept that. Let me add then, and the demolition of the single-story frame structure at the rear.
And I second.
Josh Wilbur,
Approved.
Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
Tom Stark,
Approve.
Owen McCall,
Approve.
and Mike Pittman.
Approved.
All right, gentlemen, looks like you get your COA in the mail. Building can begin and get the proper permits, as you were all aware.
Thank you, John.
Hey, thank you,
Appreciate
guys.
it.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for
Yeah,
taking the
thank you very
project on. That's another big investment downtown Madison. It's great.
You guys.
Thank you. All right, so with that, that concludes all of our applications. And so now we'll go into new business and our annual election of officers. So we'll accept nominations for the chairperson to begin with.
I nominate Josh Wilbur.
I second.
Brooke?
Mike Pittman,
Approved.
Hold on a second, before you do, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask, are there any other nominations? I'm telling you, I'm getting tired.
You also need to accept your nomination.
Do I?
It's not on.
Yes,
We're so good at that.
Okay. I'll accept the nomination. So, okay, go ahead, my fault.
Mike
I didn't
Pittman,
need one.
Approved.
Owen McCall,
Affirmative.
Tom Stark,
Approve.
Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
and Josh
I
Wilbur.
already accepted. The triple pay is gonna be great. All right, so vice chair,
I would like to suggest Thomas Stark as vice chairman.
I'll second.
I'll accept it. Is that a one-year term or, I mean, one, okay. Yeah, I'll accept it.
It's a one,
Yeah. No Mexico trips.
Are there any other nominations? All right, that,
Mike Pittman,
Yes.
Owen McCall,
Affirmative.
Thomas Stark,
Affirmative.
Jerome Vernon,
Approved.
and Josh Wilbur.
approved. All right, so we have our election of those. We don't do the secretary and stuff like that anymore, right? Okay.
We got Ken sitting out there, we can nominate him.
Can not, you know, are they bodyguards? Do we have any other new business? Old business? The church. Well, that's executive session, that's after this meeting. Staff report.
January fast tracks. We have William Peckinpah, 912 West First Street. I know I went over these with his application, but if you want, I can,
No, just,
I'll recap.
if there's anything that's different than what you already went over, then do it.
Nope.
If not, then we can read.
Chad Gray we went on, also talked about, John Everton at 208 Mulberry Street, replacing a shingle roof with a standing seam metal roof. And then January 2020 COA review, Larry and Julie Truax at 316 Mill to remove a double window and replace with a smaller, that has been done. Riverton LLC, 108 St. Michael's, to build a porte cochere at the entrance, that has been done. And Joe and Susan Craig at 810 East Second to build a canopy over the east entry, and that also has been done. So that is it.
Questions for Brooke? All right, hearing none, then I will accept a motion to adjourn this meeting before we go to our executive meeting.
I so move.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so we have adjourned our regular meeting for the month. Now we're going to have an executive session,
Which is close to the public.
which is close to the public. All right. Thank you for staying. I wish you could stay longer.
Kim, we've got another year you can stay.
15 hours into my day right now.
Thank you, guys.
If Marlene needs to
See
stay,
you, Ken.
we can.
Take care, guys.
Okay.
I need to stop the camera.
Okay.
And you're recording.
Yep.
What were you gonna do?
5-minute recess, then you want everyone wants to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yes,
You
please.
got anything to eat around here?
Yeah.
I thought she wanted-
Are you
Have some,
serving anything, Nicole?
walnuts in my office.
Go home,
Oh, sorry.
go